Hope you slept well. I hope you enjoyed the beautiful piano pieces from Jaroslav last night. Please come inside if you are still outside. I think we're missing quite a few people this morning. So, slowly but surely. Yes, please. Okay, I think people are coming in. Please have a seat. Pavel, just make sure you get one of these later. Okay, so welcome back. I hope you had a lovely evening. I think what's most important about these conferences is always the networking, right? It's so great to meet people that you haven't met before or to reconnect with old friends. And I'm always learning so much from you guys, so I'm hoping that you are also enjoying these networking breaks to learn from each other and to exchange practices and to give each other tips. I always go home with a lot of tips and a lot of information that I look up later, and the greatest projects come out of that. So I think these networking parts are really important, and I hope you enjoyed that. So, as usual, I will have to go through some of the housekeeping. You are all aware that you need to wear your badge, right? If you don't wear your badge, you will not be let in. Please make sure that you know where the fire exits are. These little green signs with the arrows show you where they are. If the fire alarm goes off, please do leave the building. Don't stay. For those of you who still haven't understood where the bathrooms are, they are around the corner to the left. And then I would like to talk with you this morning also about the Code of Conduct of the Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum. I've already told you a little bit about it yesterday. And, you know, a lot of organizations have a code of conduct, right? And then nobody reads it and nobody cares about it. But I think in your situation, and the code of conduct is extremely crucial. It's a very, very important document, and I think the members that put it together thought very, very intensely about it. Really, it provides a set of values and standards that should be respected throughout the EAP Civil Society Forum. And it's really about respect, tact, and courtesy. It's about treating each other with the same respect, tact, and courtesy we ourselves want to be treated with. And really, the Code of Conduct is about increasing legitimacy and making sure that our donors and the external stakeholders trust what we do, trust what the Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum does. The Code of Conduct aims to improve quality of performance and to make sure that the decisions you make are transparent and efficient. It's aligned with the Istanbul Principles, and it really promotes human rights, dignity of individuals, diversity, inclusiveness, gender equality, people's empowerment, ownership and participation. And I think none of us have anything against those things. They are at our hearts, so I think it's very important that we also abide by this Code of Conduct. If you witness a breach of the Code of Conduct, or you are yourself victim of disrespect or other things, then please report that to the arbitration committee. You shouldn't have fear of reprisal or retaliation. Misconduct will not be tolerated, and I'm sure that the colleagues from the EAP Secretariat or the Steering Committee can point you to the right people if that is the case and you feel that your rights have not been respected. The Code of Conduct is available on the EAP CSF website, and we will make sure that the key points of the Code of Conduct will also be on some flip charts outside to remind us all that respect, tact, and courtesy are really essential for our work. Okay, so without further ado, I will hand over to the co-chair of the EAP Civil Society Forum Steering Committee, Anna Otilia Nuțu, who will give us the introductory speech.
Thank you very much, Patricia, and thank you very much, colleagues, for joining this morning. So, dear colleagues and friends, I'm delighted to welcome you to the second day of the 15th Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum Annual Assembly. Yesterday, we had a warm opening of our assembly with inspiring speeches and a special ceremony for the 2023 EAP CSF Civil Society Award to the Belarusian Association of Journalists. It was filled with engaging discussions and valuable insights, and I have no doubt that today will be equally productive. Our assembly is taking place in the midst of a pivotal moment in the history of the Eastern Partnership, one that demands our collective attention, reflection, and action. The challenges before us are significant, but so too are the opportunities to shape a more prosperous, democratic, and interconnected future for the Eastern Partnership region. As we convene today, it is impossible to ignore the profound shift in our understanding of the Eastern Partnership, precipitated by Russia's unjustified aggression against Ukraine. This act of aggression has forced us all to reevaluate our approach and recognize the pressing need for a renewed policy that is both responsive to the evolving geopolitical landscape and sensitive to the ongoing war and post-war reconstruction of Ukraine. The Eastern Partnership region has evolved into a complex and multi-speed entity. Each of the 6 EAP countries advances their unique expectations and ambitions vis-à-vis the European Union. The European Commission adopted the 2023 enlargement package, recommending to open negotiations with Ukraine and Moldova, and to grant candidate status to Georgia. Regardless of the varying degrees of desired engagement, all 6 countries urgently require a policy that aligns with the current reality. This policy must learn from our past experiences, acknowledge the changed geopolitical context, and address the pressing needs of the region. The principles of rule of law and reforms must remain at the core of the EU's engagement with the Eastern Partnership. These principles are essential for building robust and accountable institutions, which are the bedrock of any thriving democracy. We, as civil society, must also take pride in our achievements. From the Georgian civil society, which successfully pushed for Georgia's European path, to Belarusian and Azeri civil society, which bravely withstand repression in their fight for fundamental values of democracy, freedom, and the rule of law. But our engagement with the Eastern Partnership should extend beyond the rule of law and cooperation with the civil society. We must focus on enhancing the security and resilience of the region within the new geopolitical context. The Eastern Partnership's role in promoting stability and cooperation is more critical than ever. In light of the ongoing EU enlargement process, it is important to emphasize that the Eastern Partnership may become more bilateral in nature, reflecting the fact that several countries are entering the EU enlargement track. While bilateral engagement is important and natural, we must not lose sight of the broader multilateral perspective. The European Union is a beacon of multilateral cooperation founded on shared values that have fostered peace, freedom, and prosperity. It is vital that the Eastern Partnership remains committed to fostering peaceful cooperation among neighboring countries following the European path. When it comes to the credibility of the enlargement process, we must consider the responsibility of managing expectations as well. While we all share the hope that Ukraine and Moldova, among others, will become part of the European family, it is essential to temper expectations about the timeline for EU accession. Overly elevated expectations can lead to disappointment and disillusionment. Instead, we should focus on the value of the accession process itself. This pre-accession phase offers a unique opportunity for institutional reforms and preparations that are vital for a country's long-term success within the European Union. As we move forward, let's concentrate on making the enlargement process more efficient. The idea put forth last year by the European Stability Initiative, ESI, to move away from the binary in or out regime of EU membership is promising. Identifying areas where accelerated sectoral and institutional integration can occur and building consensus on these points will provide countries with a tangible path to engagement, as well as give them hope as they progress along this path. I encourage all of us to actively participate in today's discussions, share your insights, and collaborate to develop practical solutions that can address the complex challenges facing the Eastern Partnership region. Our collective efforts can shape a brighter and more resilient future for our region and strengthen the bonds of democracy and cooperation. We are indebted to our friends, donors, and partners who brought us all here together today. The European Commission, the Poland Ministry of Foreign Affairs, OGP, and Konrad Adenauer Stiftung. I am particularly indebted for the presence of Mr. Wojciech Gerwel, Undersecretary of State from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Poland. Thank you for your dedication and for being part of this vital conversation. Together, we can make a difference. Thank you very much, and Mr. Gerwel.
Good morning, Madam Co-Chair, Your Excellency Mr. Ararat Mirzoyan, Foreign Minister of Armenia, ladies and gentlemen, the distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for this opportunity to say a few welcome remarks at the beginning of this exchange, and I'm greatly honored and I feel it's a privilege to participate in this 15th annual assembly of the Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum. And you know, I have an incredible, I feel an incredible gratitude to all the representatives of civil society. Over the years, Poland has been a success story. We've been the fastest growing economy in Europe over the last more than 30 years. And there were many things that contributed to this, you know, educated population, balanced economy, and so on. But really, without a robust civil society, we wouldn't be where we are. And this is your daily work and engagement that in Poland, but also in the Eastern Partnership countries that is so meaningful. And I just wanted to write at the outset, thank you very much for this. And I am also wanted to express the satisfaction that as Poland we've been able to be very strongly involved with the Eastern Partnership, but also with the Civil Society Forum from the very beginning, and very glad to support this conference. So I have two very brief remarks, but on two subjects: the Eastern Partnership and a few words about Russia, before I conclude. So about the Eastern Partnership, the Eastern Partnership, initiated 15 years ago as a common initiative of Poland and Sweden, supported by all the EU member states, still remains one of the EU's most influential tools of inspiring and stimulating reforms in the Eastern Neighbourhood region. The Eastern Partnership countries the Eastern Partnership continues to play a significant role in its goals, and its goals are constantly valid. The main objective of the Eastern Partnership is to strengthen stability and democracy in the region and to make partner countries more resilient to external and internal shocks. Eastern Partnership effectively stimulates and strengthens European aspirations of the six partners. After the recent European Commission's recommendations on the 8th of November this year to open negotiations with Ukraine and Moldova and to grant the candidate status to Georgia, the separation between enlargement and the Eastern Partnership has been further overcome, and the two projects are now intertwined. The new status of those three countries constitutes a significant political push to continue reforms and at the same time a strong message to Russia. Poland has been consistently supporting the European aspirations of Ukraine, the Republic of Moldova and Georgia. However, the Eastern Partnership should remain relevant to all six partners. There are a lot of regional challenges that require regional solutions. Disinformation, cyber threats, crisis management, organized crime and corruption still constitute serious obstacles to reform agendas in the entire region. I am particularly honored that the Foreign Minister of Armenia is here with us today to share his remarks, and of course the challenges in the region are tremendous, but I think this is such a privilege that in the Eastern Partnership it's one of the fora where partners from both Armenia and Azerbaijan can also participate, and yet another place to engage on the civil society forum level. We also need to work effectively on a number of areas such as sustainable energy, health resilience, environment and climate, smart connectivity, and many others. These days, in a number of countries, the role of civil society is suppressed. The EU possesses many tools to stimulate and protect activities undertaken by independent NGOs and free media. It is vital that people organize themselves freely in order to monitor and control their governments, especially in the countries where democratic institutions are still weak. I hope that this year's annual assembly will be a forum for vivid debates and many shared ideas about how to strengthen the role of the civil society even more. And now about Russia. Speaking about Eastern neighborhood, we shall not forget about Russia, a country that is consistently positioning itself out of European cooperation and out of European standards. No meaningful cooperation between the EU and Russia will be possible before the country adheres to fundamental norms and principles and stops its aggression on the Ukrainian territory. Russia sees its role in the region in a very specific way, to hamper the European ambitions of the neighboring countries and to stop their democratic aspirations. Moscow does not hesitate to execute such goals by all possible means, including the most brutal and unlawful. Having said that, we need to emphasize once again that the transforming and modernizing package offered by the Eastern Partnership constitutes an important incentive for successful social and economic transition to democratic and prosperous societies. Therefore, the Eastern Partnership serves as an effective immunization against authoritarian tendencies that are being projected by Russia on its close neighbors. Once again, thank you to the organizers for setting up such an ambitious agenda. I was reviewing in details the different discussions that are going to be following today and tomorrow, and I'm just jealous I cannot stay here longer. I will stay, of course, to listen to the minister and for some time, but I will have to leave soon. But I am jealous. I would like to stay with you and listen to those exchanges. I wish you a very fruitful conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gerwel. So thank you very much, Mr. Gerwel, for pointing out again the importance of the Eastern Partnership and of the role and the levers that civil society has to advance the region. Before I introduce our next guests, I would just like to point out again that I'm seeing a lot of cameras and a lot of pictures being taken, and of course we have a lot of honorable guests today, and we all want to photograph them and so on. Please remember that you should not photograph the people with the red lanyards. Please make sure that you protect them and that they are not on your photographs that you are sharing on social media. They're not on your photographs at all, ideally. Okay, so we have with us today, one by video, one in person, two country leaders from the Eastern Partnership. The first one is Maia Sandu, President of the Republic of Moldova, and she has a speech for us that she is giving per video. So I think it would be really interesting to listen to her. Please fire off the speech of
Dear friends,
Maia Sandu.
As we gather today for the 15th Annual Assembly of the Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum, we do so with a strong commitment to the fundamental principles of cooperation, security, and democracy. In this new era, marked by the most complex global challenges, Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the ongoing security crisis in our region remind us of the urgency of these shared principles. It is also a good time to reflect on the value that the Eastern Partnership brings to our societies and our people. Moldova prepares to be ready to join the EU by 2030. This objective is not just a dream. It is a strategic imperative that we are committed to realizing. The path to EU membership is a beacon of hope for our citizens, a promise of economic growth, freedom, security, and a future in the European family. Our journey towards the EU has been made possible in no small part thanks to the Eastern Partnership. It offered us a structured framework for political association, a visa-free regime, and more opportunities for closer economic integration with the EU. We received crucial support that allowed us to make significant progress in key areas like good governance, trade, and people-to-people contacts. It has helped us better integrate our economy in the European space increase the competitiveness of our own products, and reduce our economic vulnerability towards Russia. The DSFTA has underpinned years of economic growth for us. It has led the way towards where we are now, a future member of the EU. At this critical juncture in our history, we must recognize the crucial role that civil society plays in preparing like-minded countries for EU membership. Civil society organizations across our region are not just partners. They are the backbone of our democratic societies. They work tirelessly to uphold the principles of transparency, accountability, and good governance. In Moldova, during our darkest moments, civil society has been instrumental in defending our democracy and pushing for reforms, even when the political leadership was against it, unveiling cases of corruption and ensuring that the rule of law is upheld. Civil society plays an important role by amplifying the voices of those who seek change and democratic transformation, who wish for a future where their rights are protected and where corruption has no place. These individuals are indeed European, and their determination should serve as a rallying cry for all of us. In closing, I want to emphasize the importance of unity, solidarity, and unwavering commitment to the ideals that brought us together in the first place. In the face of adversity and regional challenges, let us stand firm in our belief that cooperation, collective security, and democracy will guide our way. Thank you, and may this 15th Annual Assembly be a testament to our shared determination and our unwavering commitment to a brighter future that we all envision.
So, very important words from Maia Sandu, President of the Republic of Moldova. We have with us today also the Foreign Minister of the Republic of Armenia, Ararat Mirzoyan. Honorable Minister, here you are. We hadn't met before. Welcome to the stage. I believe you also have an equally important speech for us. Thank you.
Good morning, dear colleagues, dear friends. This is a real honor for me to address the participants of the Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum Annual Assembly. I do believe that today, among like-minded partners, we can openly discuss and critically assess the developments both in each Eastern partner state and on regional and European levels. So for triggering further discussion, let me put forward two questions, reflection on which might be helpful today. So, question number one, what was and what is the Eastern Partnership about? And question number two, what is the role of civil societies in changing the world and the Eastern Partnership in particular? Back in 2009, when Eastern Partnership was being launched, it was aimed to strengthen the ties of the partners with the European Union and EU member states based on common values, deepen economic and political cooperation, and support reform agenda. If we try to summarize it in one sentence, Eastern Partnership was launched being about democracy, and today it remains about democracy. I can proudly state that my country remains committed to democracy and democratic values. During the recent years, despite all the challenges that we have been facing, the COVID-19 pandemic, war of 2020, military attacks and aggressions against the sovereign territory of Armenia, influx of more than 100,000 refugees from Nagorno-Karabakh as a result of ethnic cleansing, the democratization process and implementation of ambitious reform agenda didn't stop in Armenia for a single moment. The government of Armenia continues to remain committed to the endeavors of the 2018 democratic, non-violent, velvet revolution. And it is really difficult. It is difficult to sustain democracy if there is no conducive environment around. The collapse of the European security architecture, rise of authoritarianism in the world, massive violations of the UN Charter on the one hand, and the democratic values on the other, make it necessary to seriously rethink how the EU should position itself. And this requires the European Union not only strengthening its links with Eastern partners, but also EU encouraging the cooperation among Eastern partners. In this context, I want to commend the European Commission's decision to recommend the European Council to open accession talks with Moldova and Ukraine and to grant candidate status to Georgia. This decision is welcomed not only by the government of Armenia, but also people of Armenia, who also have European aspirations. During the last several years, we have had an impressive record of joint work to bring Armenia and the European Union closer. We are cooperating on implementation of the reform agenda, on realization of flagship initiatives of 2.6 billion euros, and in many other fields. Recently, we launched the high-level EU-Armenia political and security dialogue, the second round of which is taking place today in Brussels. I should also commend the decision of the European Union to deploy a monitoring mission along the state border between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Moreover, the European Union is an important partner of Armenia's peace agenda in assisting our efforts in bringing peace and stability in the South Caucasus. The government of Armenia has political will to normalize relations with another Eastern partner, Azerbaijan, and we are ready to move forward to that end on the basis of the principles adopted in Granada by Prime Minister Nicole Pashinyan of Armenia, President Michel of the European Council, President Macron of France, and Chancellor Scholz of Germany. Furthermore, as we believe that peace and stability in the Eastern neighborhood much depends on economic cooperation of the partners, Armenia has recently introduced the project of the Crossroads of Peace as a token of our commitments to the establishment of peace and cooperation in the region and beyond. Armenia is also interested in joining the Black Sea electricity cable project, and we hope that the European Union will support its aspiration using its toolbox. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to my second question on the role of civil societies. I should confess that no government in the world is able to implement a development agenda, nor to combat the challenges alone, without you. The times that we are living through are not easy at all. And I definitely know that the issues which I was talking about will not be addressed without your participation, your criticism, but also your support. And here I thank you. And this is not the traditional thank you that we usually say at the end of our statements. I really want to thank you for the tremendous job that you are doing for Eastern partnerships, common cause, for our values, for democracy, for peace. Thank you.
So much. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. I believe you are in a big rush, so thank you so much for coming. So, I think also the Honorable Minister has underlined the importance of civil society again. I'm very touched by the fact that these very high-level speakers actually recognize the worth of all of you. We have two more video speeches, one of Josep Borrell, High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy of the European External Action Service. So let's listen to Josep Borrell.
Good morning. Good morning to all of you. I am very glad to open the annual assembly of the Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum and welcome such an impressive number of civil society representatives from Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Georgia, Moldova, and Ukraine. When you are coming here together, you are demonstrating the power of the Eastern Partnership, the power of uniting people despite their differences, and we know there are many. But in spite of that, you coming together show your will to exchange ideas, learn and work together toward common goals. This is the power of this meeting. We know that in today's world, the rules-based order is challenged, and the international law is being violated. Your work and determination is more important than ever, despite these challenging circumstances. I was in Ukraine some weeks ago, and during all my visits to Ukraine, I admired the impressive effort and courage of the Ukrainian civil society, defending the independence and freedom of the country. And many of the Belarusian civil society too are fighting, representing human rights, supporting human rights defenders which are forced to work in exile. I think also on the challenges faced by civil society in Azerbaijan or by LGBTQ activists who are under threat simply because they are the way they are. I see civil society activists in Armenia, in Georgia, Moldova, working tirelessly for a better future for their countries. And on doing that, they contribute to defend our fundamental values. Because defending our fundamental values and the rule of law is at the core of our common agenda. Together, we continue to stand up for human rights, for non-discrimination, for gender equality, for diversity, for the freedom of expression, the freedom of assembly, the freedom of the media, and the fight against corruption. We cooperate. The European Union cooperation with you, with the people of the Eastern Partnership countries, continues on many other important topics, from sustainable economies to climate resilience, from digital transformation to fair and inclusive societies. This Eastern Partnership policy has had and will continue to have a transformative power within your societies. It is also contributing to the enlargement path of Ukraine, Moldova, and Georgia, with the civil society having such an important role to play. Moving forward together within the Eastern Partnership, your ideas, your critical views, and your active engagement are needed and seen. So, dear participants, be sure the European Union is and will remain a strong and reliable partner for you and for the entire Eastern Partnership region. And sorry for not being with you, but I want to send you my best wishes for your fruitful and inspiring discussion.
Okay, last but not least, for the introduction today, we also have a video address from the Commissioner for Neighbourhood and Enlargement Policy of the European Commission, Olivér Várhelyi, and we can also listen to him.
Dear participants of the Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to address you today at the annual Assembly meeting. Let me first thank you for the vital work you do, both to defend freedom and human rights and to promote equality and justice in the Eastern neighborhood. Your active engagement is also crucial for the Eastern Partnership, particularly during these challenging times. As Russia's war against Ukraine continues, the European Union remains committed to its support of the Ukrainian people. The EU also recognizes the courage and determination of the people of Ukraine. For example, last year in Prague at your annual assembly, the Civil Society of Ukraine received your annual Civil Society Award as a sign of sincere recognition in the most terrible circumstances. We highly appreciate your continuing activism. Sadly, the situation remains fragile in the South Caucasus. We continue to support the work towards peace and normalization of the situation in the region. The EU recognizes the civil society's essential role in the peace process. It is good news to have representatives from both Armenia and Azerbaijan in this annual assembly today. From our side, we mobilized more than 10 million euros to address emergency needs and the integration of refugees. I also welcome representatives of the Belarusian civil society who have shown remarkable resilience in the face of Lukashenko's regime and its brutal crackdown. The EU support for the people of Belarus has been an unquestionable priority, with over 100 million euros provided since 2020, and currently an additional 30 million euros is in preparation. We must keep the dream of democratic Belarus high on the agenda. Despite very challenging circumstances, Ukraine, Moldova and Georgia have made progress on their enlargement path by taking forward key reforms and moving closer to the European Union. Following the Commission's recommendations in the enlargement package published on the 8th of November, we now look forward to the Council's decision on the next steps. Ladies and gentlemen, the Eastern Partnership is now increasingly a multi-speed framework. Yet, regional cooperation remains as important as ever as we continue to address common challenges collectively. In recent years, we have stepped up our engagement in security, good governance and socio-economic recovery, as well as investing in green and digital transitions, energy independence, and health resilience. The 17 billion euros economic and investment plan is key in this regard. The plan is already delivering on the ground, connecting us physically and digitally, promoting our joint energy security, and supporting the sustainability and prosperity of our businesses and communities. However, the success of the Eastern Partnership also depends on the critical role of civil society. You translate the words into action, bring about change, and hold power to account. On this note, I thank you again for the engagement and wish you every success in your discussions.
So these were the words of Olivér Várhelyi. So we heard from Josep Borrell, Olivér Várhelyi, Maia Sandu, and Foreign Minister Mirzoyan, as well as Dr. Gerwel, Mr. Gerwel, who is still with us today. And I think there is a common thread in what is being said. The common thread is that you should not underestimate who you are. You should not underestimate the importance of your work. And there's ongoing support for what you are doing. And I think there's a call on you to think how you can continue working together to improve and to continue the progress of the region. And the next panel debate might be able to help you with thinking about this. The next panel debate's title is Quo Vadis, Eastern Partnership. And it is framed in the agenda as a debate to explore how countries can move forward in EU enlargement, even though they might be doing this at different speeds, and how the Eastern Partnership can support that, also in the view of the ongoing aggression of Russia against Ukraine and the threat to the overall region. Okay. So I'm just being told that I am too quick and that we have to wait a little bit. So maybe I can have some reactions from you guys. What do you think of what has been said? How do you feel about what has been said? Mr. Gerwel is also still here listening to you, so take this opportunity. Are you sure? You want to be the first one? Okay.
So, thank you to give me floor. I appreciate for Minister Mirzoyan speak in person, but I'm a little bit upset for other commissioners which live in the same district. They are not able to come and even make handshake or see us. when many brave people from Azerbaijan and other problematical regions came in person here. I'm living in exile, I don't have problem to see Borrell or other commissioners during their visit to European Parliament or Commission or to other event. But for many of my colleagues, it's important to see in person and address. And I would like to use this opportunity to invite them to come during the lunch break, when they finish their daily job, to come and have a coffee with us. We can invite them. We have a nice restaurant here. We can drink coffee and discuss in person. Because sometimes when they come to Azerbaijan, like President von der Leyen last year, she don't have time to see my colleague in Azerbaijan, and we invited President von der Leyen as well, because we know they are a bit busy with upcoming elections, which is supposed to be next May, but we would love to see him in person. Thank you.
Thank you. So while your remark is certainly fair, I think we have quite an impressive list of people coming here personally to talk to you in the next 2 days. So let's also take the opportunity and respect them for their efforts of coming here. And even if it's just around the corner, they're very busy people. Anybody else want to say something as a reaction to what we've heard this morning? Please.
Dear colleagues, it's actually the great opportunity of opening and to see how the Eastern Partnership development for it's actually almost 15 years, so it's quite a lot of work. And of course we have some countries who is made more steps to the EU, and as well less steps to join the EU for a moment. And I'm, on behalf of Belarus, I would like to stress that actually the Belarusian citizens did a lot to show that they made the pro-European choice, the citizens, not the regime. And at the same time, it's a little bit sad that we have Valery Kovalevsky, who is represent on the same level like a Minister of Foreign Affairs, Democratic Forces of Belarus, and he didn't have an opportunity to speak on the opening. Of course, it's great that he will have opportunity to speak during the panel and raise the question, but I think the Belarus still should be on the agenda. And of course, I'm very grateful to European politicians who is named Belarus in their speech and their support, but as well I encourage the Eastern Partnership high-level officials to see the Belarus and Belarusian people as well as pro-Europeans, and to address that in their speeches respectfully. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that point is also taken. Any other comments? How are we doing? We have still a little bit of time. So who else? Maybe one of the female voices in the room. I always want to hear the female voices. Please. Malgorzata, go ahead.
Just a short comment and reaction to what my colleague just said about Belarus. So I just want to underline that Poland and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Poland is always putting the impact on the fact that despite the regime's decision to suspend the participation of Belarus in the Eastern Partnership, we treat the Eastern Partnership democratic forces and civil society as an equal partner. And this year we organized in May a debate in Warsaw on the Belarusian civil society, education and culture. And we always repeat, and I will do it also today during the senior officials meeting, that the Belarus should take the due place, waiting for the time when the democracy will come back to Belarus. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing again this message of support. I think we were all very touched yesterday by the prize that went to the Belarusian Association of Journalists. And we will take the opportunity this afternoon to look at, or to get to know some of the prisoners, the political prisoners in our gallery walk. And I'm very much looking forward to that, although, of course, it's really not something uplifting, but important for us not to forget them. Anybody else? now or never. Go ahead, please. I can hear you, but maybe try again. Try again.
Yeah. Yes. Also, as a reaction to the comment about Belarus, I'm just a PhD candidate, but together with my boss, we research democracy promotion by the EU in Belarus. And at every conference, in every meeting, with every conversation, we highlight the importance of Belarus and its people, and that despite all that's going on, it should not be forgotten. With Ukraine, with Israel, Palestine, Belarus should still be on the agenda, not just as a third, but I would argue together with all of them. So even outside civil society and academia, whether this is in Poland or whether this is in the Netherlands where I'm from, we are still with you.
Thank you so much. And indeed, I don't know if you know that, but my first research I did on the human rights situation in Georgia. It's quite a long time ago. I'm getting older. And I was actually talking to civil society organizations at the time and looking what their role was in the Velvet Revolution. And it was a very interesting time, and some of these organizations have really evolved and still fight for democracy today and to uphold what is going on in Georgia and to make sure that Georgia remains on its democratic path. So it's a really interesting journey, and I think the Belarusian civil society plays a similar role today, and hopefully that will also end in a similar success story as the Georgian one or the Moldovan one. Okay. Are we still waiting? Okay. Please. Thank you. Unless you want to hear more personal stories from me. It's coming. There, on this side. And I still, please intervene, but I'm still really waiting for the female voices as well to intervene. Huh?
Ашот Пеликян, Армения. Когда мы говорим о разноскоростном движении по интеграции с Евросоюзом, мы все-таки должны более четко уяснить и подчеркивать, тем не менее, ситуацию по каждой стране, потому что очень часто делается следующим образом. Первые три страны, которые уже на пути к членству, или они будут вести переговоры насчет членства в ЕС, и дальше идут Азербайджан и Беларусь, где серьезные проблемы с тамошними режимами. И при этом Армения, которая заключила с Евросоюзом очень хороший договор о всеобъемлющем и углубленном партнерстве, как бы находится между этими двумя полюсами. И очень часто она как бы иногда и выпадает. Поэтому я бы хотел, чтобы и в Еврокомиссии, и вообще в структурах Евросоюза, когда имеют в виду разговоры об интеграции и подчеркивают в первую очередь Украину, Молдову, потом Грузию, я хотел бы, чтобы Армения не выпадала из этого списка и также рассматривалась как страна, стремящаяся к более тесному сотрудничеству, к интеграции и в перспективе тоже видит себя членом вот этой европейской семьи. И для этого вот этот договор о углубленном и всеобъемлющем партнерстве является своего рода трамплином и этапом на этом пути. Я просто, расслышав все эти приветственные слова, хотел бы еще и на это обратить внимание. Спасибо.
Thank you so much. And indeed, I think your foreign minister made it very clear that you are on a path there and you're not going to stop. Now we can go. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, so as I was saying, I think the next panel debate is really quite crucial to to discuss where the Eastern Partnership will go on its path and how civil society can continue standing in strength and moving the region forward. So we will have with us this morning, and some of you will be happy to hear this, as you are waiting to speak to some of these people directly. Dirk Schuebel, he was with us already last year. Great to see you again, Dirk, Special Envoy for the Eastern Partnership and representative of the European External Action Service. He's just getting his microphone, so I will just, we will wait for him. Then we have with us Hennadiy Maksak, Executive Director of EU PRISM. Hennadiy, can you come up here, please? Here you are. You can take a seat, and we'll wait for the other people to come. Thank you so much. Pavel, do you have a preference for the order? No? Okay. Then we have with us Daniela Morari, Ambassador and Head of Mission of the Republic of Moldova to the EU. So Daniela is also there, and Dirk is coming with her. Brilliant. Come and join us. Nice to see you. And we have with us Valery Kavalensky, representative of Foreign Affairs of United Transitional Cabinet of Belarus. And Maria Karapetyan, yes, I have her here also on my list, Member of Parliament of Armenia. Hello, Maria. So, and last but not least, I have not introduced Pavel Havlicek, who is the working group, the EU coordinator of the working group 1 of the Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum. He is the research fellow of the Association of International Affairs and will moderate this panel. Pavel.
Thank you so much, Patricia. You already did a big part of my job, actually, introducing the distinguished guests. So it will be my great honor to just welcome you once again. Valery, please also join us here. We will be having now around 2 hours to discuss the fundamental question that actually brought us, many of us, here to Brussels. Quo Vadis, where are we going? So that will be the overarching question to which actually I will be asking and challenging my participant in the panel that Patricia already has kindly introduced. Before we dive into the debate, I was actually asked to provide maybe a quick summary, just a couple of points actually for our stakeholders to also understand how we spent the last day, because that was quite a lot of discussions. We were actually gathering all 5 of the working groups. You know, we had a sort of reflective discussions about 2 fundamental questions. What are the challenges standing in front of us actually, and where is the role of civil society to correspond especially and to respond to 2 fundamental issues, which is of security and democratization. How do they reconcile together? How do we make sure that we have democratic governance in the Eastern Partner countries, whereas we also make sure that we have also security in place, as much as this is possible, taking into consideration the ongoing Russian aggression, you know, the occupation of Belarus, you know, wars and conflicts across the 6 countries. This is all the context that we are operating in as well. So this was the first part of the debate. And then we actually continued to having 4 thematic areas in which we discussed issues starting from enabling space for civil society all the way to regional development and how we should be doing things together within the 6 partner countries, about European values, and this will be probably to you, Dirk, also how to communicate about European values in the region, which are challenged on everyday basis by the Russian propaganda. How do we make sure that we all use our capacities? Are we good with our communication on these issues? So that might be some of the issues that we will actually be asking you. And then finally, not to end with this, and I'm looking at the left side of the table, especially about the authoritarian influences on the Eastern Partner countries, being both domestically driven, and I'm looking at Valery in particular here, and then also from outside, and Hennadiy, I'm winking at you at this point about the Russian interference and ongoing aggression that is happening just in front of our eyes. So, for the next 2 2 hours, roughly. I will be asking first our panelists to provide 5 to 7 minutes, actually, of introductory remarks. And then we will be having a more interactive discussion also with you. So we will have enough space and time to actually give you the floor for questions, comments, and also anything that comes to mind as well. I am announcing that straight away. So Mrs. Daniela Morari, she will have to leave us in around 30 minutes. So we will also make sure that maybe there will be interaction with her on the way. But first of all, I would like to give the floor to you, Dirk, because I think it would be really great if you could help us frame this debate about Quo Vadis. You know, if you could summarize where, from your position within EEAS, where you see the region developing, where the Eastern Partnership is going forward, where we are going forward on the EU side as well, and maybe you know, what should we do as civil society to help? You know, because that's also why we are here today. Please, now the floor is yours for 5-7 minutes, please. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, first of all, for inviting me here. I'm feeling already like a permanent guest to the Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum. Last year we were discussing in Prague the many issues. I have almost the impression that I spent more time over my last year with civil society than with my official colleagues,
which is good.
Which I think is good, and it's a good sign. So yes, last year I remember that I said that there is a world before and a world after 24th of February 2022. And I'm afraid I have to repeat this year as well, because nothing has changed from this perspective. Why? Because our Ukrainian friends continue to suffer every day and night under the brutal war of aggression that Russia is waging. Supporting Ukraine remains the EU's #1 priority, also in the Eastern Partnership framework. So let me start with this, because that is, I think, the precondition for everything to continue to support Ukraine. And that is also what, by the way, the High Representative said just last week, that supporting Ukraine is priority #1 of all our policy at this moment in time. So, continued relevance of the Eastern Partnership. You know, we just came back from Georgia last week. We spent 3 days in Georgia with 18 of my colleagues. One of them is here. Another one is also here who couldn't join us, Christina. But we had a fabulous trip where the main purpose was again to see exactly what we can still do for a country with the ambitions that Georgia has, and they are equal to the ambitions that Ukraine and Moldova has. So the relevance we discussed already last year a little bit as well of the Eastern Partnership. I think nothing has changed from that time. We still do believe that the Eastern Partnership has a relevance. I would not predict the future where we would be with the Eastern Partnership in 10 years' time. But for the time being, we believe, in particular in such difficult times as we are now, it is also an anchor, the Eastern Partnership, to which to hold on to stick together as partners, no matter what ambitions each of the countries has. There are simply too many common challenges that require common solutions, we believe. Frankly speaking, after a bit more than a year in my current position as Special Envoy for the Eastern Partnership of the EU, I have seen firsthand the power of the Eastern Partnership on numerous examples, and that's how the High Representative, by the way, just called it, the power of the Eastern Partnership, which I think is a very nice expression. Last year, we have created a flexible Eastern Partnership format that we believe fits better into the current times. A format that can support those countries on the accession paths, but it can also continue to support those countries who have less ambitions with regard to the European Union. A format that includes also those beyond the actual Eastern Partnership area, wherever it's useful. A format with meetings that focus on direct added value, and not to have a meeting for the meeting's sake. We said many a time we had more than 100 meetings a year, and we have reduced this, as you can see. When we look back at the past year of this flexible format, we think we're on a good track. I look forward to hearing, of course, also from you, how you see this, whether you appreciate this or not. So it's also your side that, of course, we would like to hear. That added value lies in many fields. In Georgia, we discussed a lot about connectivity and about security, which I believe are two of the crucial areas that we should concentrate on. Connectivity includes energy. In the field of security, of course, the issues are countering hybrid threats, ensuring cybersecurity, and of course, foreign intelligence and manipulation of information has also been a crucial topic. In connectivity, we believe that the whole region and the wider Europe will benefit from better connections between the countries. We discussed a lot in Georgia now the 2 undersea cables that we are going to support, of course, and the so-called middle corridor, which will be also of utmost relevance in the future. Climate change, number 1 challenge, and an area where we all need to do much more. The Eastern Partnership can do its part. Gender equality, another important topic. We are still very far from a gender equal society, and there's a giant gender pay gap in the EU as well as in the EEP partner countries. And I was very happy to hear that the first Eastern Partnership Working Group on Gender Equality took place last month. This is really an important topic where we can learn from each other, exchange ideas on what works and what not, and that should of course also be part of our work streams in the future. Different speeds, I think was also mentioned by you, multi-speed Eastern Partnership. Yes, but hasn't the Eastern Partnership always been a multi-speed one? It is maybe more obvious now, but before Russia's war of aggression and the subsequent EU membership applications, there were already countries with an association agreement and other countries without. And among the countries without, there's also big differences. Armenia has the SEPA, which is in many ways equally ambitious as the association agreements. Azerbaijan is an important partner for the EU, and we count on the finalization of the framework agreement, which has got stuck, unfortunately, a bit. The situation in Belarus has been very different and difficult, especially since the 2020 fraudulent elections, with many of you working from outside the countries. Valery is a good example, in very special and specific difficult circumstances. The Eastern Partnership was always based on the principles of differentiation and inclusiveness. And of course, we look for win-win partnerships. That's why we shouldn't do everything where we cannot guarantee such win-win partnership. Also, when you look at the different international rankings, press freedom, corruption, you see very different scorings in the different countries. This doesn't mean that the regional policy has failed. There are many good results of regional cooperation, but you being here today together, I think, is one of the examples of the regional cooperation. How can the Eastern Partnership support enlargement? Another topic I think that was raised. A lot of the enlargement process is bringing your national legislation and implementation in line with EU policies. That means a lot of reforms, as Daniela will confirm. I want to take this opportunity to note the really good work done on this, especially Ukraine in such super difficult circumstances. It's remarkable. But this is, of course, just the beginning, and much more work will come over the next years once the negotiations will have started, as it was also to be seen in the enlargement reports that were published last week, which made us all happy, the outcome, of course. In the Eastern Partnership, we have for many years stressed that progress on rule of law reform, democracy and human rights is the key to resilient societies. These topics are equally central to the enlargement process, so it is not a question, the one or the other. The work is complementary and overlapping, and that is also the difference or the link between Eastern Partnership and the enlargement process. On a couple of other countries, and then I will come to an end. Many of the Western Balkan countries have been on the enlargement track for much longer. That means that the trio, Ukraine, Moldova, Georgia, can learn from them, from the experience. That will not always be positive experience, but it's also to learn maybe to avoid mistakes that have been made on either side, EU side and Western Balkan side. You can learn from their civil society how to influence and push the governments. I think it's an important point. And likewise the other way around. Ukraine and Moldova have shown that it is possible to reform quickly. This can help the Western Balkan countries also maybe to give some impetus to their work. On the other partners, we remain equally committed to the Eastern Partnership partners that are not on the enlargement track. On Belarus, the EU obviously continues full steam supporting the Belarusian society and non-governmental organizations, and the door to the Eastern Partnership remains, of course, open to and is open for a democratic Belarus. The October European Council discussed how to strengthen our cooperation with Armenia. and support its democratically elected authorities, its resilience, its security, and the continuation of reforms in the country. It was decided, as you will have seen, to beef up our new EU mission in Armenia, more observers and more patrols in sensitive areas of the border. Yesterday also, after the Foreign Affairs Council, the High Representative said that the EU will explore a possible support to Armenia under the European Peace Facility and options for visa liberalization for Armenia, which is a topic that has also been discussed for a long time, and I hope we can move forward with that now. Now, how partnering with local civil society and democratic forces can bolster also the fight against authoritarian regimes, maybe one word. We all, us at the European Union, the member states, the partner countries, but also civil society and everyone in the country have a shared responsibility to hold ourselves to that commitment, the cornerstones of our partnership. This requires continued work, messaging, but also concrete action. And that is one key area where we have to work, where we need to work together very closely. You are the watchdogs in the countries, and we need your input of things that don't go well. You're neutral watchdogs, I repeat, because of course opposition is always a different topic in countries, but the civil society is the one from which we need to know where we are. So as the High Representative said in the opening remarks to this forum, we see a world where authoritarianism is gaining ground. This must make us all the more resolved to stand together and to fight this development. And you, as civil society, you play a super important role in this, sometimes in very difficult circumstances, as in Belarus, as in Azerbaijan. But we can only applaud your work, loud and clear. And please rest assured, the EU continues to be your partner in this. I will stop here, and I will be happy to answer your questions, of course.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dirk. It was really comprehensive, as you always like to approach these issues with this comprehensive overview of individual countries, but also the broader picture. I sense the reference to Western Balkans, which we will be having discussion about as well. But without further ado, I would like to go to you, Daniela, because you will need to leave us in around a few minutes' time. So immediately, I would like to switch to you and ask you about a couple of the questions that actually Dirk also outlined. If you see still the added value for Eastern Partnership for your country, if you see really, and you could confirm the interconnectedness between enlargement and Eastern Partnership, if this is really feeding into the process, that's the big question that for your work also here in Brussels, if you see that this way, and of course, please also feel free to jump into some of the challenges or opportunities that you see ahead, for the coming years. Thank you.
Good morning, first of all, to all of you. So nice to see so many friends and familiar faces in the room. Really sorry that I will need to run. Sometimes nothing happens, and sometimes everything happens at the same time. And there are 3 overlapping events, which I already kind of confirmed I need to attend. But I will be tomorrow also in a full panel where we can follow up on some questions if we don't manage to go on all today. Also, I think it's a very good timing to have this discussion today and this week. It's good timing coming after the last week report of the European Commission. It's also good timing to be on the, today is going to be the senior official meeting of the Eastern Partnership, and it's just before also the ministerial meeting of Eastern Partnership. And always civil society been very forward-looking, very ambitious, outspoken, and I think it's very important to have this brainstorming and discussion just before the both meetings. Always we counted on your vision and your guidance, also on your expertise, helping us doing the homework and also being the multipliers and communicating the message on the heavy reforms, but also on the challenges that we're going through, both home, but also here at the level of European Union. For us, it's like all the work we've been trying to do during last weeks, last months, now, and also in our horizon, it's linked with our accession ambition. For us, last week was very historic and very important for everyone working hard on doing the homework for the 9 steps, but also for all the homework for the chapters of accession. It was a reconfirmation that hard work pays off, and it's really empowering the line institutions to further continue. And also it was very important, the message of political message, that this is real, that this is happening. We as Moldova always believed into that. We always worked on that for some time, but the yesterday decision, we really hope the decision in December, last week report and the decision in December will allow us to move further and to allow us to launch negotiations that will put us on the rail of irreversibility, and also approaching and with doing all the homework, joining the European Union in the foreseeable future. This reality, it makes a big change into the organizing things, in doing homework, and in taking all the conditionality in a different way and approach. We did a lot of work to organize internally and to increase capacity, to really take more and more on board from the conditionality and homework. We don't need to be convinced to do the homework, we just need some additional help and advice. And here where civil society is such a crucial actor, partner, and we also had one of the 9 steps that been in the opinion of the Commission, it's also related to the cooperation of civil society. And it's important for that particular step, but also for overall cooperation in itself and doing the entire effort of accession. This is why we have a lot of dialogue, we have consultation platform, we have civil society being part in all the structures of coordination at EU level. We would like to continue. Of course, it's always a room to improve, and it's very important also to collect and also to learn how different other countries are doing it better. On Eastern Partnership, we always been pragmatic and constructive within our cooperation within the Eastern Partnership. We will continue. We are continuing to implement the flagship initiatives within the Economic and Investment Plan, and we will try to see what we can do within the Eastern Partnership together on bilateral but also multilateral, that will help us to further advance, to do the homework, and also to advance in our path of accession. We also believe that it's important in this new reality that Dirk just referred to, all of us to sit and to see how we can further readjust to the new realities, how we can put all the instruments and tools together to help us to deliver on the new priorities that we have. And we're very committed to see in which form and way we can continue to cooperate, because geography no one changed, and we are very kind of interested to put together the current instruments and the platform of cooperation, both on the multilateral format of the Eastern Partnership. We will contribute to the discussions today at the senior official meetings, at the Eastern Partnership Ministerial, to see how together we can adjust and see the cooperation on that. But as I mentioned, the path of accession and launching of negotiation, it's the key priority for us, and everything we do internally in cooperation with member states at level of EU institutions, it's trying to build on advancing on that path. Also, I wanted to highlight the importance of cooperation of civil society in all these areas, in doing the homework, in having additional expertise from the civil society in different sectors. And as we're advancing more, everything is becoming more sectorial and technical, and having different sectorial expertise in the civil society, it's one of the future priority for us, to really build this expertise in very sectorial technical. It's far beyond going to the general framework, and it's more than the fundamentals, which usually civil society is the key voice and actor, but we need civil society expertise in energy, in phytosanitary, in transport, in social protection, in so many, in environment, in climate action, in all these areas. That's why we very much encourage also if within the Eastern Partnership or different other platforms, this additional expertise can be built in the civil society, where they can be partners with the government kind of colleagues and institutions. For us also, being a small administration, it's so important the role of civil society of being multipliers, to be with us additional voice to communicate for different target groups in the regions, at the local communities, and also that additional voice helping to have a clear and simple message what all this process is all about European Union, about the values, about the processes, and also this narrative to be communicated to everyone, not only to the ones who are in favor, but also to the skeptical, to the ones who are seeing or having challenges or questions, or seeing the cooperation or the processes in a kind of different way. I think it's very important to have these discussions together with civil society, and especially, which is relevant in the case of Republic of Moldova, where a small administration, to have this type of platforms and communication with the civil society. And we are interested to build further this type of cooperation. We have different initiatives, but it's always a room to have it in a more kind of organized, and also if we manage to launch negotiations of accession soon, we will need to rethink also how to put the cooperation on this forum together with the civil society. That's why it's very important also for us to hear from you and also to get a lot of inspiration in different ways how to do it further.
Thank you so much, Daniela. It's really, really inspirational. What you mentioned about you being the pragmatic voice within the Eastern Partnership, seeing the added value and looking for the synergies were useful. That's really interesting. I think many people in the room, especially from Moldova, also took the note about the skill building, capacity building also, that you would like to support, to have the good partner with the civil society and to promote this cooperation. So I think many will actually benefit from this here in the room and beyond. So I just wanted to thank you, and I know that you will need to run, that your meeting actually starting in 7 minutes. So it will be fantastic actually to hear maybe from you tomorrow also, and to have more discussion on one-on-one as well in the corridors. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure, and good luck with the next meetings. And now I will be already switching to my left, and I will ask Maria to actually jump in. So, of course, you have a lot of experience also, not only from the national country perspective and the parliamentary expertise and experience, but also when dealing with European parliamentarians through Euronest, you know, that you also attended. I understood that you had a meeting just on Monday, so maybe if it would be interesting also to reflect on what happened, what was your experience. But most importantly, the question remains actually, Quo Vadis, so where do you see the future of Eastern Partnership? How the Eastern Partnership is delivering for you in Armenia? We heard from Dirk also about, you know, of course, the challenges, you know, and that from the security point of view, actually, the EU is now trying to do more. The EPF reference was made also, so maybe if you could reflect on this and how you could see also, you can imagine Eastern Partnership developing further in order to develop and deliver more for Armenia. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Pavel. Dear co-panelists, dear participants of the forum, it's a big honor for me to be here and to share my thoughts and to offer my thoughts for your discussion as a member of the Parliament of the Republic of Armenia. This morning, Foreign Minister Mirzoyan spoke in very specific terms about the European civilian monitoring mission in Armenia, about the European Peace Facility, and Dirk also mentioned that, about the platform of negotiations that the European Union is offering to Armenia and Azerbaijan to reach a peace treaty. And this allows me perhaps to more share the political philosophy and my thoughts, at least, in which direction my thoughts are going when we're talking about the relations between the EU and Armenia as embedded in the relations between the countries of the South Caucasus and the European Union. So the European Union has played an important role in Armenia's democratic transition throughout years. And I believe that when we're talking about acceleration and multi-speed, in the recent years, this has accelerated because Armenia itself has accelerated its democratic institution building. So voila, here goes my first point. I believe that we need to underline time and again that democracy is first and foremost the choice of the Armenian people to govern themselves internally. And it is only by derivative of this fact that we come close to the European Union. Of course, for members of the European Union, it is absolutely normal to think of the European Union as the axis of democracy, as the pushing force on the European continent. And for any country, when they become a member of the European Union, it is okay to think this way. But for a country that is outside the European Union, and even more so for a country that is in the periphery of the European Union, and for a country that has a very young, sometimes fragile democracy, it is important to think of democracy as a value in itself. This is also important to check the motivations of the Eastern partner countries, and I'm speaking obviously on behalf of Armenia, about our aspirations. So the question I pose to myself at home domestically is the following: if we were the only democracy on the surface of the globe, would it still be our choice? And the answer is obviously yes. I believe that this is the way to build a stable and hopefully irreversible democracy that is resilient and resistant to the risk of relapse, also given the young democracies that we are. And coming closer integrating with the European Union will be a natural, almost inevitable consequence of this sort of framing of the question. My second point is about peace, and hence about our region, the South Caucasus. So what is peace? Countries with open borders, interconnected as people, that means interconnected culturally, economically, obviously, politically, building an experience and ultimately a tradition of resolving disputes and issues and tensions through dialogue and diplomatically. This sounds very much like the European Union. And yes, we can talk about the European Union as the hallmark of peace on our continent, and of course the European Union deserves to be celebrated as such. And yet another way to look at this question from our perspective is to bring our gaze to the South Caucasus again. And so for Armenia, it is extremely important to underline that stretching towards the European Union in our agenda of peace is in no way in contradiction with the interests of our neighbors, nor regional interests as a whole. It is for this reason that we speak about the project of the Crossroads of Peace that the Foreign Minister also presented this morning. So to summarize, and perhaps to anticipate the question to be asked to me, does Armenia have European aspirations? The answer is yes, absolutely. Yet it is important to underline that European values are not naturalistic phenomena. This question to us means that Armenia wants to strengthen its democracy and to build peace with our neighbors. And I believe it is very important to depart from this understanding of the question that is posed in the title of our panel today, of where we're going and why. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Maria. Thank you so much, Maria, for also reading my mind when asking and answering the question immediately about the aspirations, because that's on many people's minds. Okay, what's next? Are you happy with staying with SIPA, or do you want to progress for a DCFTA? Do you want to do more, especially in the context of some of the previous decisions, for example, most recently by your Prime Minister not to attend the meeting of SCTO? So that was something that was really communicated and discussed widely. You know, so what is now the conundrum for Armenia, right? In the region, where the past some also relations within the alternative blocs and so on. So how do we do things together? So this is indeed one of the fundamental questions, and I will be very happy to come back to this actually in our discussion. But now I would like to also go to you, Valerie, and ask you about where is Belarus going, and where is Belarus going within the Eastern Partnership. So Quo Vadis remains on two levels for me, because of course we see that the situation remains complicated immensely inside of your home country, but then obviously there are many things happening internationally also, including by all the great work that you are doing within the United Transitional Cabinet, visiting capitals, picking up the topic of future of Belarus, democratic future of Belarus, and maybe Belarus that is also aspiring, going in the European direction very much. So how is this connected with the Eastern Partnership? How do you fit in the framework, and where do you see maybe the next steps from your side, also from the European stakeholders that are represented in the room? Please, the floor is yours now.
Thank you, Pavel, and thank you for having me here. My first time, my debut at the Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum. Honored to be speaking in front of you all, and it's a privilege to speak on behalf of Belarusian democratic forces here about a very complicated situation in Belarus, unresolved crisis that has significant implications not only for Belarusian people but for the entire region, and with some aftershocks for global interests as well. In the beginning, I would like to echo some of the comments that have been made during the opening session. I think the participants of the Civil Society Forum deserve the attention of political leaders, of the European Commission, of those who cooperate on a continuous basis with civil society and praise civil society for all its efforts. I would also call for representation of all 6 states during opening remarks. I think it makes a lot of use and benefits all of us who are here in the audience to hear about this situation, about the perspective of various states. So I hope that next time there will be an opportunity for all 6 states be represented by their leaders. Now to the situation in Belarus. I've been checking the website of the European European Commission on the relations on Belarus, and it says that Belarus suspended its participation in Eastern Partnership in 2021. We disagree with this. This is the regime who suspended participation in Eastern Partnership. Belarusian people have not. Lukashenko can go wherever he wants, but Belarusian people choose to stay with the European Union. Eastern Partnership Initiative is an important platform for us to maintain relations with the European Union. Until recently, that was the only platform for us to maintain these relations. Since June this year, there's the consultative group on relations between Belarus and the European Union, which is an important and growing mechanism that will help us to address the existing agenda and develop relations for the future. That's why we also hope that the European Commission in general will reflect this in the communications, in the wording, that it is the regime who doesn't want to have relations with the European Union. We have also evolved in our understanding where we go in terms of relations with the European Union. In 2020, the protests were non-geopolitical. We did not see European flags or slogans, and the rhetoric of protesters was about internal change, about us restoring democracy in Belarus and people getting back to the sources of power, as it is written in the constitution. However, the protests were about European values. So it was inherently pro-European. It was not pro-Russian. Nobody would say like how much we appreciate the values of the Russian Federation and the oppression, colonialism, and imperialism. It was about freedom, it was about human dignity, it was about human rights. And this is what predetermined our path forward. Yes, we remained cautious until the war started. But when the invasion happened from the territory of Belarus, we realized that this is not only a threat to Ukraine, this is a threat also to Belarus, to our independence, to our sovereignty, to our national identity. And we could not avoid this choice any longer. That's why political forces of Belarus and civil society supports this choice and this goal, determined that the EU membership is our actual objective in where we want to arrive. It is not just about European choice, European path, it is about the membership in the European Union. And while it is driven by security considerations, that the EU is the right safe space for us to continue as an independent sovereign country, where we can continue developing our national identity. There are two other considerations that drive our choice. This is values, understanding that this is exactly where we want to come. About dignity, about equality, about independence of the judiciary, rule of law, and all other principles and values of the European Union would like to be there. We see these principles as indispensable for us to continue developing as a nation. And finally, we are also thinking about pragmatic considerations when we speak about the membership in the European Union. For us, of course, we see this as an opportunity to anchor Belarus in the European civilization. This is absolutely apparent to all who monitor the situation in Belarus, that we are under attack from Russia. It is different. It doesn't look like an attack on Ukraine. But the methods are different, but the idea is the same. Belarus should cease to exist as an independent national state. And this is why the goal of EU membership for Belarus is for us an opportunity to anchor ourselves in the European family. And would like also to see that the European Union also realizes this. And they also see this as an opportunity to anchor us with the family, not to allow Russia to drag us into its dungeon. Not to allow Russia to water down and wipe out our national identity. This is also a chance for our neighbors, also to look at Belarus as a rightful member of the European family, and we of course would welcome to see more communications, but also practical steps from our partners. And so Russia is a threat. It is a threat to many in the neighborhood. Belarus and Ukraine, of course, are not the final destination for Russia. Russia sees this as a stepping stone. They want to impair the European Union. They want to weaken it and destroy it as much as possible. They want to affect in such a way transatlantic community. This is why supporting Ukraine at this crucial period is our priority for all. But at the same time, while this is an ultimate priority for all, and there could be different paths to reach this destination, to support Ukraine's victory. And in our belief, democratic Belarus would be the strongest sanction. That would be the strongest blow at the imperial Russia. And this is why all efforts need to be made to help Belarusian democratic forces to restore sovereignty, to restore democracy, to force Russian forces to leave Belarus and to stop engaging Belarus in this conflict. Now to the question of our cooperation with civil society and how we partner. I would like to go back again to 2020. The politicians started that campaign. They were new, they were inexperienced, but they brought this spark into the campaign, which brought people out in the streets who protested against the fraudulent elections, against the violence. But that was the protest of people. It was decentralized, it was genuine, it was real, it was very authentic. Immediately, these large masses of people, they started to evolve into civil society on a very grassroots level. This showed that essentially this revolution of 2020, it was a civil society, it was people's revolution that made it possible, and it continues to be possible until now. So for us, for political forces, it is absolutely indispensable to continue working with civil society to maintain and strengthen partnerships. And there are quite a few examples how it works for us at this stage. I would mention just a few most notable ones. The contact group with the Council of Europe. An institutionalized form of relations between democratic forces of Belarus and the Council of Europe, the first ever example of intergovernmental organization establishing such relations with non-state entity. The contact group consists of 10 people, 3 of them represent political forces, 7 civil society, including diaspora. The strategic dialogue with the United States. Also, the delegation is formed from both political forces and civil society. Consultative group with the European Union, the same manner of composition. It's important for us to walk on this road together. We know that we benefit, we complement each other in many respects. Political forces have possibility of access, which is unmatched compared to other periods in our history. But civil society has energy. Civil society has an expertise. They are focused, they are committed, they are very effective in what they do. Now I would like also to speak just a bit about the position of political forces with regard to civil society in general, here in the European Union. I think that we all would like to see more resolute position, more decisive position of political forces leadership in the member states, in the European Union, in Brussels. We often hear how much politicians praise the civil society for their focus, for their commitment, for how effective they are. But when it comes to actions from politicians, from political structures, from institutions, we see indecisiveness, we see lack of response, we see very gradual approaches, very cautious approaches, or sometimes we don't see decisions at all. We see this praise for courage and sacrifice. However, it is not always matched by the same from political leaders. And if we imagine that civil society would see a problem and say, we don't have a decision, we don't have energy, or we don't have resources, and stop doing anything, then that would be a huge problem for all. However, politicians sometimes afford themselves such luxury. I think that we all deserve that the energy and focus are matched between the two.
Valery, if you can slowly come to an end.
Yes, so this is my final thought, that while we hesitate, why we do not reach solutions, why we do not implement those solutions, our opponents or even our adversaries stay committed, they are ruthless, they are active, they do not stop. That's why we should also be considerate that in this confrontation sometimes, or with pursuing our strategies, our objectives, we have to be resolute and brave. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Valery. We very well noted your call for bold action. And just yesterday evening, we were once again discussing with some of the stakeholders actually about the need for ultimate political action. This is a crunch time on many respects, including your country, Belarus. And of course, the leadership is very much desired, either at the level of the European Union or also individual member states showing the way. Of course, you receive so much support from countries Lithuania, Poland, Czech Republic, and others, but there's much more, but much more is also needed. So here, obviously, the struggle continues, and we are very much with you. Thank you so much for intervention. Last but not least, we have Hennadiy Maksak, good friends of the Civil Society Forum, long-term warrior for Ukrainian cause, and also good friend. You are, Hennadiy, in a position of the only civil society voice in the debate, so I would also ask you maybe to reflect on what has been said, maybe offer some critical remarks, also what some reality check, where do you see it from civil society point of view, and indeed, please give us also your take on what is the Ukrainian stake in the whole debate, because Ukraine has been one of the very often very critical voices within the Eastern Partnership debates, why this is all needed. What has Ukraine now in common with Belarusian regime or Azerbaijan on the other side, you know? So where do you stand? Where do you see the added value, similarly to what I was asking Daniela on the Moldovan side from Ukrainian point of view, and maybe also the critical remarks about what has been said as well. Please, the floor is yours now.
Well, thank you so much for so many questions to be put from my side to be answered. It's really a big pleasure and privilege for me to be in these so-called friends, so many familiar faces, so many old warm memories from being actively engaged in forum. But as you said, war just has set different priorities for our NGOs in Ukraine, and we have to look more for some specific decisions on bilateral level. But let me start with sincere congratulations to NGOs and to society from Ukraine, Moldova, and Georgia for the decision of European Commission. I think a lot of your efforts are also part of this result. And we expect for political blessing this December of this decision, and we looking forward to start negotiations earlier next year, because it's very important to have these negotiations prior to big reshuffle in European Union, prior to European elections. I feel myself here in a so-called friend, as I said, so I think it's an invitation to be frank about policy, to say what is right, what is wrong. And it's it would be not a big surprise that from Ukrainian side, what is wrong would be a bigger list compared to what is right. But we have to be clear and frank about this. So my issue is that big war since 2022 has put to crash test both enlargement and neighborhood policy. And in this way, while one policy was elevated and there is window of opportunities with enlargement, I think that neighborhood policy was relegated to some marginal sideline roles in this time frame. So for us, it's to decide how to reinvigorate this process for both policies and to make it beneficial for all partners, all 6 partners or 6+ partners in this new neighborhood policy. Yeah. But also I would like to say that this war was a big game changer for Ukraine. We're trying to squeeze out of our territory Russians. Sorry. But we still have some reforms track done in Ukraine. As Ambassador Schuebel mentioned, sometimes it's remarkable what we have achieved being still in wartime and with a bigger neighbor, with a big aggressor. So I think it's a game changer while there is incentive on that side of the table, when there is a possibility and clear understanding from European Union side. But that said, I would say that at the moment in Ukraine, we feel that European Union is our strongest advocate, and we appreciate what our partners do in European Union, whether on the level of political support, on level of armed deliveries, microfinancial support, humanitarian support, many layers of this support, and we do understand that it is our survival to be part of this European club, European family. So what was wrong with, or what was right with Eastern Partnership? Let me start with good points. I would say the formula political association and economic integration was a good one. It produced results at least in 3 countries. And I would say that from our position, it was a good starting point to prepare ourselves to enlargement. Even to be able to prepare or to fill in the questionnaire of European Commission in 2 months, which is a remarkable time frame. I think it was all based on that understanding of the process from implementing of association agreement of European Union and Ukraine. So it was a good practice, a good sign. Next, I think civil society is something of a benchmark of Eastern Partnership, of neighborhood policy. And this forum, it just produced so many good initiatives, so many networks in the region. So I think it's something to be preserved, even if the policy is to be reshuffled. Because I think this forum just makes and plays its role to full extent. And also on plus side, I would say there are EU funds and EU programs which are open to Ukraine and to other partner states, like Horizon, like Erasmus, many other, Creative Europe, you name it. So many and so many possibilities for us from different sectors in our countries. I think it was a good experience, and it should be also continued in new frame of policy. From my side, I would say there was not a serious incentive for frontrunners in Eastern Partnership. All our attempts to talk about European perspective, to talk about prospect of membership, it was met with hostile realities within some capitals in European Union. And I think it somehow dissuaded or just maybe distracted our leadership from doing more precisely and more streamlined on delivering to benchmark and commitments we have. Next negative point, I think there was a low connection, although it was articulated more for more, less for less, but there was no this clear obligation and commitment to connect reforms in your countries and economic benefits from these programs. What I mean, just to take Lukashenko's Belarus, as I said, we are not interested in this political part of Eastern Partnership. Let's talk about economy. We know what happened. So I think it was a clear indication that there should be more stronger connection and bond to political reforms in countries. So at this point, I think it was a low connection. Small attention, I would put it diplomatically, small attention of this policy to security dimension. I think I shouldn't explain it in details, you know what happens, but we have been advocating as a society for this security dimension all the time. Pavel, you remember all our resolutions, all our meetings with European institutions, trying to put more security dimension in Eastern Partnership. I think this is something that played a bad role, the absence of this security dimension in neighborhood policy. And next point, I will end with minus side, is inflexibility on the differentiation track. It also pronounced that we are for differentiation approaches, but in the end of the day, when there was trio back in 2021, and there was a clear aspiration to be more vocal within Eastern Partnership, to be part of this forward-looking trio, it ended up with just a separate declaration of trio, because it was not possible to include what we wanted in this Eastern Partnership declaration. So it was a clear indication, although words are there, that there's a differentiation, the reality was different. What I propose as a new framework, I think it stems from our analysis. We also, in partnership with Secretariat of Forum, doing analysis and assessment of Eastern Partnership policy. So I think some framework stems from this position. I have to voice that. But I think this is a clear task for new Commission, for new European Parliament, for new institutions to deliver and maybe to just end this transitional process and to just make some benchmark and some marks of this new policy. The first policy, I would say that primary task of new neighborhood policy should be a stronghold. It should be a stronghold against authoritarianism in the region. So all policies should be oriented and shaped, have to deliver and have to incentivize, have to make our partners, European partners, partners of the European Union, more interested in being part of this club. So I think that it should be a strong call. So some policies should be reshaped in this way. Next point, it should be wider region. I think there is no sense of keeping this Eastern Partnership for six. It doesn't make sense regionally. We have different aspirations, we have different tracks. It was a multi-speed approach, but I think it should be open to other countries from Western Balkans. If you're talking that these policies, enlargement and neighborhood are intertwined, if you're talking that they should just complement each other, I think those from Western Balkans should be also part of this bigger picture and just to take part and have benefits from the policies which are of interest. I will take some attention on this issue later. But I think next point, fundamentals should be core. it connects to this authoritarianism, but I would say that we should talk about how to make this triangle, rule of law, democracy, and human rights protection, core of this new framework. If we have some benefits from the Union, please abide by the rules, abide by these commitments and what is values of European Union. Next point, I think there should be a la carte different proposals for sectoral integration, be it transport, something which unites us, which is just interconnects transport, energy, migration, you name it. So I think this should be also part of this policy to propose for those who are more interested in cooperation on some sectoral approaches. Ukraine has some experience, and we're trying to gain our access to internal market of European Union, trying to be part of the energy union and many other policies which are open to partners. And I think this is yet good experience for our partners from different regions as well. And new policies should facilitate global outreach of European Union to be really geopolitical. I think that's why it should be more included in this global gateway program and global outreach financial resources, which just also interconnect this region with other regions and makes us as a broker or as a bridge between European Union and other countries and other regions. For example, through Black Sea, when Russia is out of the region and it is safe to trade and to communicate via this route. And basically, it's very important to produce these good stories, success stories from Eastern Partnership to other regions. Talking to our friends from Western Balkans, you often hear that our agreements with European Union are obsolete. We do not have these privileges you have with DCFTA. So maybe it is also would be beneficial for them to use this line while they're trying to access European Union on this process, maybe to open or just create DCFTAs and just to produce new framework instead of the old one. And it is very important, it was also mentioned in enlargement package, that there should be more alignment with common foreign and security policy of candidate states, of those aspiring to be closer to European Union. This is, should be part and parcel of this process. We know that sometimes it's a big problem. Look at Serbia, when from one hand it just strives and declares to be on the process of integration, but from other hand we see how sanctions regimes and other issues are going with this country, with this capital. And foreign and security policy, I would say maybe some of you have heard about peace formula of Zelensky. I think this is something which is globally oriented, and it should, if adopted, European Union on this side, it tries to help Ukraine in just advocating this formula, even in Malta, on meeting between different advisors of different leaders of foreign states. This formula could produce even framework for other conflicts in the region. If there is universally agreed that we are for 10 points, be it nuclear safety, be it food safety, be it respect to territorial integrity and UN Charter, I think it could be just a precondition to new security architecture. And it should be also part of this common security and defense and foreign and security policy. At the same time, it should be somehow of security arrangements for the region based on this peace formula. And let me just finish on 3 short points about enlargement. We are grateful that we have this short time spent in Ukraine and to progress on this track of enlargement. But this is still our appeal to our friends and partners from European institutions that fundamentals should be the core of the process. When we talk about how to make European Union in shape of 30 plus more operational, there should be more respect to rule of law, there will be more democracy procedures. So I think we should start and end with fundamentals and talk like with pressure to partners and to governments in our countries about these issues. Next point, I think it is imperative for us to open accessions early next year. As I said, because of the new election cycle in European Union, it's better to just close this file or open this file with these current institutions. and it would be a good political signal for all the region, I would say, in that way. Not to make some artificial obstacles on the way. I'm fully aware of the decision-making process in European Union, and sometimes it is to member states to decide how to act. But I think this open annexation would be a huge political success, to the region for both European Union and our candidate countries. It should be a merit-based approach. I'm not in favor of any regional approach. At this point, we can't say even about trio. We have duo with Moldova at this moment, and we are trying to support our partners, but it should be merit-based. If we have delivered on fundamentals, if it ticks boxes in our key communitaire, so the first come, first served. I think this should be also the precondition for this enlargement policy. And state integration as my final point. While we're trying to obtain full membership in European Union, we should also be admitted to some policies, to some sectors of European Union, to have benefits. For us, as a country involved, it is very important as well as for other partners. Let me stop here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Hennadiy. Ďakujeme. So you provided us with a lot of food for thought. Also, I would be looking forward to hear some of Dirk's maybe reflections. But at this point, I would like to really open up the floor for the first wave of questions, comments, because we are left with around 1 hour. So that's what I reserve for you and for our interaction. I can see Emin in here in this first row, the lady over there, and there is another hand over there. We will stop with 3 for now. We will go further. So first here, Emin, Hussein over here. This is the first question. Please come over here with the microphone. And then we will continue. So perspective from Azerbaijan, I mean, please feel free to introduce yourself and then be brief in articulation or your question or your comment. Please.
Excel-based human rights defender. Thank you for organizing such a great panel, and thanks to deliver your clear and very useful messages for all of us. For me, it's much more clear what its reality it is. What is not clear for me, future of Azerbaijan in the Eastern Partnership. I understand for you invited representative of Azerbaijan, Minister of Foreign Affairs, of our government representative to be involved to this important panel, and they, until last minute, they denied to or not confirmed their participations, and I'm upset for we missed, as like Azerbaijan, opportunities to deliver our vision. If our government not able to deliver their vision, we would like to deliver our alternative vision as like our brave Belarusian colleagues, able to clearly say what they want inside this program. My question regarding the Belarus and Azerbaijan, you, to representative of honorable representative of European Commission, you mentioned Belarus is authoritarian state and regime of Lukashenko not partner, but Belarusian democratic forces, Belarusian civil society being partner. But what is with Azerbaijan? Azerbaijan have same numbers of political prisoners, more than 200 political prisoners. Belarus have 1,500, but even one political prisoner is too much. And if any country have political prisoners, it looks like it's authoritarian regime. But we think often you mentioned for Belarus is authoritarian regime. My question is for your internal EU calculations, is it Azerbaijan's who we are? Like we try to understand, and how you look to us as like civil society, because what we find in Belarus, you find very successful, flexible mechanism to support brave Belarusian civil society in exile. We have same brave civil society inside Azerbaijan and half of us, but we are unfortunately supposed to operate from exile. What do you have for Azerbaijan exile-based civil society? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I mean, there was another hand over there at the back of the room. Can we get a mic over there? We would need at least one more mic, please, colleagues from the technical support. 2 people walking around. There is another one there. Thank you. Please introduce yourself again.
Yes, good morning. My name is Antonella Valmorbida, and I'm the Secretary General of ALDA, the European Association for Local Democracy. Alda has been among the creator of the CSF EAP, and I have been co-chair of the forum at the very early stage, number 1 and number 2. And now we are number 15. I'm very happy to be back also in this room, as we said, with old friends and also new faces. I think that we are in ALDA among the supporters to keep the framework of the Eastern Partnership as such, despite the circumstances and despite the differences. And we definitely think that this is a place, a unique space, especially for the civil society dimension, but not only. ALDA is involved in other dimensions of the Eastern Partnership, and we think that it must continue to survive. And this is the unique place for the region to discuss problems, to solve problems, and to visualize the future. Whether we put it with different speeds or different modalities, but it must continue to exist. I would like to underline 2 things. One is the role of civil society in this framework. This room and this component of the Eastern Partnership must focus on the civil society role, which is the connector with the governments and with the institutions, but it is to focus mainly also around the aspect of being the connectors in the region. Mm-hmm. We must show that this room is not government. This room is people. We need to show that we are people power, and to express solidarity. We need to express connection among ourselves. We need, for example, people power, express our concern with other situations, for example. Why not to express at the end of this forum concern for what's going on in Israel and Gaza, for example? We need not only to react also to what are our concerns, but become a political actors on people role. So more focusing on solidarity among us and express all the dimensions of the citizens' power. I would like to say also that this room, and most of us are working at the local level. This is something that we like to do. This is also something that we want to do. So I would like also to mention the potential of the Civil Society Forum to work also with other stakeholders, that the COROLEP of the Committee of the Region and ALDA is very much working on the potential of local governance and
Antonella,
local democracy.
can you maybe come
I'm working
yes?
up, yes, certainly.
Thank
the
you.
question of enlargement, of course, this is the new element in the room. I think that it can add to the debates and to the role of the CSF and these Quo Vadis elements, and that will add new instruments for us. Regarding the Balkans and the connection with the Balkans, ALDA has been working for 30 years in the Balkans. We need to learn from their experience and from the mistakes. And one of the mistakes was not to be able to size some momentums. If in the Balkans we are where we are, it's because some political momentums were not seized. So we need to, and also from the EU point of view, I would like to say that we need to ask the EU to be coherent and to deliver as much as the country would like to deliver. Final point, Pavel.
You have 10 seconds right now.
The EU enlargement is not only made in Kiev. The people who are going to say, okay, we go, are the member states of the EU. So I would like to, and we know in the Balkans that they've done their homework, some of them, and for political reasons in the EU, German elections, French elections, whatever, it has been postponed. So I would like to call this forum to focus on the partnership with the EU civil society that will be your partners when the time will be ready and we will knock at the door, because the enlargement is decided by EU member states. Don't forget that.
Thank you, Antonella. Thank you so much. And there was the third hand over there at the back of the room. Please, the mic over there at the back. So far we have 2 points, Azerbaijan, the support. We have also Antonela's remark, local democracy, a role of solidarity, role of civil society in the whole process. We will be reflecting on those. Please, the floor is yours now.
Thank you very much. My name is Hanna Vasilevich. I represent International Center for Ethnic and Linguistic Diversity Studies in the Czech Republic. So I have 2 questions. The first question to Mr. Kovalevsky. What do you expect from the EU side, from the practical, in practical terms, how European Union can actually help the democratic forces to fight the authoritarianism? And the second question I have to Mr. Maksak. In your interesting structure, the new structure of the Eastern Partnership, what place do you have saved for the Belarusian and Azerbaijani civil society and countries in general? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Hannah. So we have 3 or even more interventions / questions. I would probably start with you, Dirk. If you could go back to the point about the sort of what is... We will continue in the next round, I promise. 3 points now. Next round, more 3, okay? So now I would like to go back to what was the point about Azerbaijan. So what is our assessment, Dirk? Like, how do we see Azerbaijan these days? Is it authoritarian power, or is it our partner, or how do we perceive the reality? We need them, we don't need them. How do we cooperate with civil society also, both inside, outside? I think that has been missing so far. And then we will continue with colleagues on my left side, please, if I can start with you.
Thank you very much, Pavel. But if I nevertheless can start from the bigger picture, also to react to Hennadiy what he said on because I think that's it's important to put that in the frame. Very good, interesting ideas, and it's certainly something that is food for thought. I can tell you we will have this discussion in a few hours in the senior officials meeting, also a little bit on the future. What my take so far from what I hear from the EU member states is that there is a preference to keep for the time being the existing frame as such, while of course reaching out, as I have described, to the Western Balkans on the one hand. And there I agree with the colleague from ALDA that we have to avoid the mistakes that have been made in the past, but I said that myself. And also to Central Asia, which I haven't mentioned yet. But to change the format, there is no readiness by all 27 member states to change the format, meaning to take out U3 or 2, whatever you prefer, or to add a Central Asian country, Kazakhstan or whatever. And definitely, I think what you will not find any majority is to have the Western Balkans maybe joining a reduced format that is less strong as enlargement. They will never do that. Maybe Serbia, I don't know, but even Serbia is a candidate country. So I think that is not going to work. But of course, we will have to think about the future. Once the negotiations will have started with 2 or 3, hopefully 3. I think we'll see we will have to redefine our role, because we will have the screening process. The screening process of the legislation, some people think that all the EU acquis is already in the association agreements. It's far from that. Maybe 20–30% experts will know it better, but there's a lot more. And there's new acquis. The association agreements are 10 years old when they were negotiated. So there we will see new needs, and maybe some of these needs can be covered by the existing Eastern Partnership very well, through the economic and investment plan, through other infrastructure projects that we have in mind. So I think that is something that we have to be aware. The basics, yes, the fundamentals, yes, they are important. But if we see the current Eastern Partnership, we talk about this still as a priority, as I also said very clearly. But we have a number of other sectors that we want to look into, which are super important for us, and connectivity. And there, for instance, a country like Azerbaijan comes into the picture, which is of utmost importance to the European Union if we want to reach out successfully into Asia, into Central Asia, and later into Asia. And that brings me to the question on Azerbaijan. I think I replied to your question, almost the same question that you asked last year at the same forum in Prague. And I have to repeat what I said a year ago, basically. I think there are differences between Belarus and Azerbaijan. And there are some similarities. countries, indeed. The human rights situation is dire in both countries, I agree. But we have basically hardly any contacts anymore, except for working level contacts with the Belarusian regime. As you know, while we have continuous contact with the Azerbaijani government, political prisoners, if you talk about it, 1,500 plus, maybe far more. Valeri can correct it. It is a total crackdown that we have seen on all civil society activities. There's no civil society anymore existing in Belarus, basically. They were cracked down. I read somewhere the number, I forgot now how many, it was close to 1,400 organizations that have been forced to close. That doesn't mean that the situation is good on human rights in Azerbaijan. We know that, but there's another reason that makes Azerbaijan important for us, and it's not only energy. It is also that we want to contribute, and we have played a very active role on finding a solution to Nagorno-Karabakh. And the Brussels process by President Michel, you know yourself, we have been very active. Our EU Special Representative, Toivo Klar, has been very active. And yes, at the moment there is a little interruption. Unfortunately, President Aliyev did not travel to Granada. We're trying to organize a new meeting in trilateral format of the Brussels process, and we hope that this comes about soon. We believe that we have contributed quite successfully to bringing the sides a bit closer. You know our position that we did not like at all the use of military force by the Azerbaijani side to retake the territory in Nagorno-Karabakh, and we have made very clear that we will observe very carefully the situation, what is happening now. However, and 100,000 people who were forced to leave the territory, all of this is clear. But this makes it all the more important to continue to be in touch with the Azerbaijani leadership. We'll do that. We have still this agreement. We have never had any agreement with Belarus, as you know. We never got that far. We have an ambitious agreement, basically, which is still stuck on some parts, but we hope that we can solve this. And we believe that by being in contact with the Azerbaijani authorities, we can help changing things for the better. And obviously, we don't close our eyes in front of human rights violations. We raise them very clearly with them. We have a human rights dialogue every year, you know that, and this is very clearly raised, as well as in other bilateral meetings. So happy to continue the discussion also bilaterally if you wish. I'll stop here.
Thank you so much, Dirk. So I will turn to the left side of the panel. I will start with you, maybe, Maria, if you could reflect on some of the points about the importance of local democracy. You, of course, are representing also the parliamentary dimension of the dialogue within the Eastern Partnership. You reflected on this, but maybe if you can also introduce you into your thinking about the added value of similar formats, not only civil society, but also regional cooperation or the parliamentary dimension to the Eastern Partnership. Maybe other points that you want to pick up from the discussion. There was a lot about Nagorno-Karabakh, of course, so feel free to also jump on this one, if you like.
All right, thank you. I personally entered into institutional politics only after the Velvet Revolution of 2018 in Armenia. And where was I before that? Within the Armenian civil society. So I feel home, actually, here. And of course, I will echo the voices that have called for a larger solidarity amongst the civil society of the different countries. And now, from the perspective of institutional politics, I would add my voice from the perspective of then governments and parliaments as well, that we also need to try at least to demonstrate this solidarity. Because what's happening within the EU? The EU member states, in parallel to talking about enlargement, they're also talking about the deepening of their relations, right? And this is a conversation that they're having internally. So I believe that within the Eastern Partnership, our countries also need to think in this direction, that being part of the EU or being close to the EU means also dealing with each other, not only with the center. Yeah, and this is important. So for myself, as I said in my opening remarks, then the South Caucasus becomes the center of my attention in this respect. When it comes to Nagorno-Karabakh and the security situation in the South Caucasus, it is absolutely important for us that Azerbaijan come to the negotiation platform mediated by the European Union. And the peace treaty that we want to sign with Azerbaijan is supposed to be based on 3 principles that the leaders of the 2 countries have already agreed to in previous meetings in Brussels and elsewhere. And this, I find it very important to air these 3 principles. This is the mutual recognition of the 2 countries of each other's territorial integrity, as the world knows us. So the internationally recognized territories of the 2 countries, this is of utmost importance. The second is the mutual state border that we have with the Republic of Azerbaijan. It is important to delimit the state border based on the 1991 state border. So with the border with which the 2 republics became independent after the collapse of the Soviet Union. And the political framework for this is the Almaty Declaration, which is the declaration that brought an end to the Soviet Union and independence to the ex-Soviet republics. And the third point, the third principle to be put in this peace treaty is the deblocking of all communications in our region. This should happen on the basis of 4 principles. The sovereignty and jurisdiction of each country over its infrastructure on its territory. And the other 2 principles, again interconnected, the reciprocity and equality. So on the conditions that Armenia will be able to use Azerbaijan's roads and other infrastructure, on the same conditions Azerbaijan will be able to use Armenia's roads and infrastructure. This is of paramount importance to us to normalize relations with Azerbaijan and with our other neighbors also, by extension, with Turkey, for example. This is also in front of my eyes, and as a politician, I keep it in my perspective as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria. Now, I would like to go to you, Hennadiy. There were some direct questions and remarks also about the new vision, the new architecture. So what you would have to propose or respond to this?
Thank you for this question. It's important and fundamental to talk about society in this regard in new proposed formats. I would say the first precondition is to fight autocratic states. And every agent of changes, every advocate, every grassroots or watchdog organization should be supported in order to just have the possibility not to influence directly the regime in positive side, I mean, but to prepare the next generation of those, or to just keep track of those that what should be done if situation is different in this country. So I think that's what we do with our Belarusian friends. We met with Valery a couple days ago in Lviv, talking about the same things, about how to just enforce this cooperation with democratic forces and society of Belarus from Ukrainian side. So I think it is part and parcel of new structure to keep supporting civil society, which is trying to assess situation and change situation, either on grassroots level or regionally or in other formats and shapes. Just to propose what Dirk mentioned and Antonella also about that EEP should be preserved. Well, if we consider this policy as a transitional for those who just strive for more as they go for enlargement policy, but it's still like a possibilities, a la carte different policies, I think it should be open for others, definitely. Because while only 6 of us should benefit from this policy if it is very important and efficient. From other point, I would say that we should not also discard Western Balkans. In my meaning, it's not downgrading their enlargement process, but come on, at the moment we have 20 years of Saloniki Summit and some Saloniki Declaration, which set in motion enlargement process for Western Balkans. 20 years. It is still there, so the process is stalled. But in between, some governments may benefit from new instruments like stage accession or stage integration, for example, from the DCFTA or those instruments we have in association agreements. It should be somehow part of that. And also, I think it could give them instruments to have been vocal even on the level of society in their countries. And let me also mention about resilience and civil society. It was also mentioned that civil society is very important in this process of keeping this track alive, Eastern Partnership or enlargement. In Ukraine, we had a publication, 20 lessons of war in 20 months of war. It was done, and thank you to my colleague Katerina, it was possible also to print here in Brussels. But the first lesson we mentioned, it was societal resilience. How society was acting in Ukraine, trying to preserve our sovereignty, our integrity, and to fight teeth and nails for just keeping our being alive and survive. The same appeared even in time of war when we advocated for candidacy. Maybe Dirk also remembers how many of advocacy organizations were here in Brussels and other kept us advocating. It is very important for us as society as well to be part and to open this track, because we now are empowered with new instruments to have pressure on our governments. And I would say for these 2 years, as I mentioned, it is a great process on the ground. I'll stop here.
Thank you so much. And Valery, also to you. Belarus has been mentioned a number of times. Also, the sort of isolation of the regimes, in connection to Azerbaijan, but also Hennadiy hinted on this. When speaking about the future of Eastern Partnership, and also your solidarity with Ukraine and others, any reflections welcome on these topics from you as well?
Yeah, so I would like to speak about what EU can do for Belarus now in practical steps. But even before that, I would like to speak about what we can do together in the Eastern Partnership among the members of EAP. By now, we have established relations, and I'm talking about political cooperation. We have established relations with Moldova, and Svetlana Tikhanovskaya met with Prime Minister Pashinyan, which was an important breakthrough for us as well. Svetlana Tikhanovskaya made the first visit to CIS country, which was Moldova. Again, our observation probably that if Svetlana meets one of the leaders, this leader would never shake hands with Lukashenko anymore. So in such a way, we're taking space from Lukashenko, operational space, for his ability to project his interest, to advance his ideology. And we have already seen several important and bold statements from both leaders of Moldova and Armenia since then. We would like, of course, to see better relations and stronger relations with Ukraine, with the Ukrainian leadership. Ukraine holds a very special place in international affairs, and they can project through their involvement, they can project a lot of positive leverage on the situation in Belarus. Of course, Georgia is also important for us, but for various reasons we have not succeeded in this regard. But we understand that if we want to succeed in building a prosperous, sustainable, democratic, independent region, it is impossible to focus on just one country or two countries. It's impossible to be prosperous and sustainable in this turmoil of the region that we're seeing. Therefore, the approach should be comprehensive to the entire region. All countries should benefit from democratic development, from the relations with the European Union. Now, to the question, what the European Union can do now in practical terms. I would start with sanctions as part of pressure. From the very beginning, the approach to sanctions pressure was taken in a flawed manner, in our opinion. Gradual approach. Let's see how these soft sanctions work on Lukashenko. I would compare this to the support Ukraine has received from weapons and armaments. If the weapons were delivered to Ukraine from the beginning, we would not see all these defensive lines in the east of Ukraine that now are very difficult to penetrate, to break up. The same goes to the regime of Lukashenko. They managed to adjust. They use each other with Russia, with other authoritarian regimes. Now we see axis with Iran, with North Korea. Syria is very welcome in this, and Hamas is also a good friend. So if we're taking a gradual approach to pressing on the authoritarian regimes, we risk allowing them, giving them space to adjust and to hit back. Accountability. There are a number of cases of crimes against humanity in Belarus. Crime of aggression, complicity in the war crimes in Ukraine, the abduction of Ukrainian children brought to Belarus. And so there's a lot to judge Lukashenko and the regime on. However, we see the lack of political will. And this probably doesn't go necessarily to the EU itself, but more to the member states, because this is rather a national jurisdiction to do this. But again, this is an opportunity that's being missed every day. Third, Russia. Russia is an active threat, and it stays without any pushback, especially when it comes to Belarus. It is just not being noticed in practical sense. Even communications-wise, nobody speaks about the efforts of Russia to subjugate Belarus, to take it under control. I'm not even saying about active, more practical measures like sanctions, for example, against Russia, specifically for its efforts to take control over Belarus. Migration agenda is very important for us. Up to 500,000 Belarusians left their country in forced manner after 2020. Many of them are facing difficulties with legalization, especially after the regime engaged in the war against Ukraine. Inadvertently, we became not freedom fighters anymore, but backstabbers in the eyes of international community. And some of the governments decided to go after Belarusians. Even though a day before they were freedom fighters, in their opinion. In this regard, it's important for us to see the support for the passport project, new national passport of Belarus. This is not only a practical tool. This is also a very practical denial to the regime to control people's lives, even when they left their country. And Lukashenko likes to exercise this control. From certain perspective, what you can see that Belarusians coming, let's say, to Germany or France, to Belgium, they cannot exercise their freedom of movement because of the interference of Lukashenko in such affairs. Essentially, we can say that the sovereignty of these countries is being tarnished by what Lukashenko does, because he reaches out and says that people's lives will be paralyzed. That's why we have a response to this. This response must be supported by member states. This is national jurisdiction, but sooner or later we will complete the preparation stage for the passport project and will come to the states with this request. However, the EU policy on this must be also in place. We need this support from the European Union. The EU membership, this declaration that has been made by political forces. We need the governments, member states to speak about this. We need Brussels to speak about this. There should be narrative, not only from Belarusians, but also from the existing EU member states. And I commend several governments, in particular Sweden and Germany, who already spoken about this in a very affirmative manner, that yes, Belarus will be part of the European Union. This is what we need. We need to anchor in our mindset of politicians and the societies in the West that Belarus is part of the European family. And finally, I would like to conclude with the recommendation to update the European Council conclusions on Belarus. Those that were adopted in 2020 have done what they were supposed to do. However, the situation has drastically changed. That's why this kind of guidance for the EU member states and for broader international community would be very much appreciated.
Thank you, Valery. Some of it will be coming, I understood, early next year. You also have a representative from member state here, so also I'm sure that your message got conveyed. We will have next round of questions. There is one here, another one from Hofser over there. There is a third one there, and there will be final fourth one at the very back. So we'll start here. The first question will be coming from here.
Thank you.
Please introduce yourself again.
If I can. Okay. I'm from Georgia. It's the first time today for Georgians to speak here, and I think it's also symptomatic for us. I'm Natia Koprashvili. I represent Journalism Resource Center. I'm a member of steering committee here in EaP CSF. And first of all, thank you, Mr. Dirk, that voice of Georgian civil society was heard here in Brussels, and you recommend to grant Georgia status of membership. It's very important for us. When we're talking about Georgia, it's important to mention that this take influence not only Georgia, but also trio countries and South Caucasus region, all of Georgia, because colleagues from ALDA are talking about the momentum. For us, for all of us, it's a momentum. And when we're talking about the Russian occupation and Russian occupation forces, like establish new ports, for example, in Ochamchire in Abkhazia, it's a problem not only for Georgia's security, and security of Ukraine, it's a security problem of all Europe, all Black Sea countries. And it's not only security problem, it's a problem of environmental, it's economical problem, ecological problem. It's a big, big issue when we're talking about Georgia. And I would mention we must remember this. We are on the war. We, Georgia, are on the war. And also it's an issue. And question is regarding Quo Vadis, for your opinion, Quo Vadis, Georgia in near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadia. Then there was a second question from Hopser, please. Over there, second question.
Thank you very much. I'm Hovsep Khurshudjan, Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum, Armenian National Platform. My questions to Ms. Karapetyan and Mr. Schuebel. The first questions, Ms. Karapetyan, first of all, I would like to appreciate your very valuable input on democratic reforms in Armenia. And my question is about Prime Minister Pashinyan's, what he said during his speech in the European Parliament a few weeks ago, when he said that Armenia ready to be as close, to become as close to EU as EU deems it possible. And my question is about if Armenian authorities will get some message, not a necessary public message, from EU side, that EU ready, for example, even consider Armenian application to become member of the EU or candidacy, application for membership candidacy. Will Armenian authorities be ready to apply for that? And your personal opinion and your opinion about the authorities' readiness on this. And the question to Mr. Schuebel, and again, first of all, Mr. Schuebel, I would like to thank you for your valuable input and participation in the Armenian Europe conference, which took place a few days ago in Brussels. And my question, like continuation of question to Ms. Karapetyan, do you see possible from EU side to consider such application if Armenia will apply? Do you see potential of Armenian democracy now, and also maybe the security circumstances for such step from Armenia side and answer from EU side? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Oser. Then we had the first question over here. Stefan, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Stefan Lüttgenau. I'm working with the Foster Europe Foundation in Austria and with the Danube Civil Society Forum. And this is my starting point when I would like to address the question Quo Vadis. The European Eastern Partnership is only one frame for cooperation with the partner countries. There are other frames, and I guess the Civil Society Forum should a little bit look left and right and see the other political frames for cooperation with Europe, with the European Union, or even with entire Europe. They have shortcomings, they have certain benefits, partly they overlap, but I think it's necessary to take them into consideration. This is first, of course, what is done in the Council of Europe, which addresses the core of what we heard today and what is about civil society, its democracy, its rule of law, and its human rights. And it's partly the Euro macro-regional strategies we have that address, for example, the Danubian strategy includes Ukraine and Moldova. And they carry what has been demanded today here, networking, cooperation and coordination in certain thematic issues like transport, like social issues, like migration, like labor, like energy. And all this is necessary to address. And in all these areas, civil society has expertise, experience, and a voice. And perhaps there is a way to include the additional frames and get into contact and connection with them for the CSF. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Stefan. And we had a question over there at the back. That will be the final one for this round.
Спасибо. Ашот Пеликян, Армения. У меня вопрос к господину Шубелю. Я помню, на прошлогодней нашей конференции вы охарактеризовали будущее восточного партнерства довольно в таких сумрачных тонах. Сейчас вы, кажется, дипломатично обошли этот вопрос. Означает ли это, что этот сумрак рассеялся и какие-то неопределенности решены? Еще раз для перевода.
Спасибо большое. Можете еще один раз просто повторить главную мысль вот вашего вопроса? Непонятно, что...
Я напоминаю, что во время прошлогоднего годовой ассамблеи господин Шубель говорил, что будущее восточного партнерства достаточно сумрачно. Неопределенно. Вот на этом выступлении своем он, кажется, дипломатично обошел эту проблему. Означает ли это, что все эти проблемы решены и появилась определенность насчет будущего восточного партнерства?
Спасибо.
Я надеюсь, что понятно.
Уже понятно. Спасибо вам большое. Okay. Thank you, colleagues. We had 4 interventions. So again, we will start with you, Dirk, because actually some of the questions were directed your way directly. We had the Quo Vadis Georgia. We had the membership question for Armenia. Also the ambivalence for the future of Eastern Partnership, you know. Are we maybe more clear into the debate 1 year on since last year? And then that could be for other colleagues about the Danube strategy and Eastern Partnership being one of the frames, but I'll leave that up to you, please.
Okay, thank you very much. I will start with the last question. I think I never said that the future is uncertain, but what I also said today is I would not predict that the Eastern Partnership still exists in 10 years' time. And I think nobody can predict this right now. We have to see the developments, we have to see how fast the trio will advance in the visa versus the European Union. We see what other developments will happen in the region. But for me, it is very clear that we need a frame for both Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Belarus. It's very clear. And as I said, for the foreseeable future, and if I say foreseeable future, I would say 2-3 years, I think the Eastern Partnership can still play a very valuable role, even for the trio, in helping to prepare for the negotiation talks and maybe even inside or following the screening when some gaps have been identified, maybe to close this gap through the means that the Eastern Partnership has at its disposal. So uncertain in 10 years, yes, 10 years it is uncertain, but not for the near future. That's what I think. Quo Vadis, Georgia. That's indeed a very good question. But I'm a little bit more optimistic also following the report. Frankly speaking, as I told you, we were just in Georgia last week. We had really good meetings with everyone, basically, that is needed to talk to from the government side, with the president, with civil society, 2 different civil society meetings. everybody, literally everybody, that was on the day before the reports were published, everybody was in favor of a positive report of the European Commission. So that is the first thing to say. So while we have had some differences in views with the Georgian government, and while civil society had some different views with the Georgian government, I think the overall objective that was also told, we were also told by the government, by each interlocutor, that the main objective is EU integration. Now, of course, they will be measured by their deeds as well, it's clear. But I think also some good work has been done. Not all the conditions are fulfilled, as you could see, but I think there's a good potential to do the to meet at least most of the remaining issues, and that Georgia can justify also the reception of the candidate country status. Of course, as you know, the main decision will be taken by member states at the European Council. This is a recommendation by the European Commission, this report, but I'm optimistic that we will indeed be able to talk about the trio also in the future when it comes to the preparations for accession, the negotiations, etc. I think the people in Georgia will help that this objective will be achieved with such a big majority, such a pro-European atmosphere also in Tbilisi, despite many Russians there. I think there is no other way for Georgia than Europe. So Quo Vadis to Europe, I think. Armenia, well, frankly, I don't know whether ever I will say it nevertheless, even though there's a lot of cameras and everything. When I came back from Moldova, where I was ambassador from 2009 to 2013, in my first day at work in my capacity as then head of division for the Eastern Partnership countries in the European External Action Service, the first message that I received in Outlook, once I opened my computer, freshly installed, was a photo of Mr. Sargsyan with Mr. Putin on the 2nd of September or 3rd of September 2013, which was underlined, Armenia can no longer sign the association agreement. So that was my first day in office after coming back, so it was a precursor of what was going to expect me with Ukraine, and other things. So obviously there was a period, as you know, of reflection also inside the European Union before we went on to propose a new agreement, which we now have, which I had the pleasure to negotiate as well, SEPA. I think it's a very good agreement. It's a very ambitious agreement. There's, of course, no DCFTA component in, but in the current moment of reflection, where we also reflect what we can do more for Armenia, I think the agreement is one part where we say what can we do more in this context. And that, of course, goes into the direction of an association agreement which we had originally in mind. So Armenia was on the same page as Moldova, Ukraine, and Georgia was back in 2013. So there's no reason why Armenia cannot come back to such state if there is a wish in Armenia in the government. And of course, if you sort out, if I may use this expression, also relations with other neighbors, and I think you know what I mean. So, but there's no way there's nothing that prevents Armenia from going back to the European path if there is a wish. I think here in Europe, the doors are open for such step.
Thank you so much, Dirk. Maria? If you can pick up the question about the political leadership and the willingness really of the Armenian Prime Minister, but the whole government actually to first do the homework that Dirk mentioned, and then obviously the following step, which Hofsep hinted on.
I want to thank Hofsep for the quotation of the Prime Minister's position in the European Parliament and the question. The direct answer to your hypothetical question is yes. On the other side of this question, we know that the European Union does not go around asking countries to join the European Union. It is quite the opposite. It is the aspiration of these countries and the long path to pass, reforming, obviously strengthening their democracy, a lot to be done on the economic dimension. For Armenia, it is extremely important that our European aspirations do not raise antagonisms in our region with our immediate neighbors. And here again, the underlining the negotiations with Azerbaijan as mediated by the EU are extremely important. And these two things need to go hand in hand.
All clear, Maria. We understand the sensitivities around this, but I think the hypothetical yes is a good answer. Thank you. And Hennadiy, I will ask you if you could go back to what Stefan mentioned about the regional component, because actually, of course, this is multi-level, and we actually did together one of the publications about the potential for Ukraine integration within the Central Eastern European and wider European structures, in which as we spoke, there is indeed a place for Central Eastern European and Ukrainian bondages, creating links, and the Danube strategy is one of those for sure. But it will be interesting to hear from you about
Well, thank you so much, and it's a pity that you have the possibility to join us on this Ukrainian Central European Forum, which took place several days ago in Lviv. We tried to think of Central European region, and how to just foster this cooperation and foster joint identity, I would put it this way. You mentioned also Council of Europe and the Danube strategy. I think for Ukrainians, Council of Europe is something which is of utmost importance. At this moment, almost all Ukrainian NGOs know Venice Commission, its decisions on 7 points of European Council, of European Commission. So I think that we're trying to use this leverage also for us. Some we agree on some we disagree, but I think that Council of Europe is something very important for us to understand. And it's not coincidence. We have a group of Ukrainian think tanks today in Brussels, and the first meeting we had this morning, it was meeting in liaison office of Council of Europe to European Union, because we talked about fundamentals and how to operate and how to empower Ukrainian institutions to deal with this issue. Danube strategy is a good example. We like it, and basically I would say that even on the level of diplomats and expert community, we have synergies, understanding that we should follow this project and maybe try to use all the possibilities which are within this project. We tried also other formats like Visegrad for plus Ukraine, but to some reasons we have stopped this process at the moment, but I think potentially it's also possible to foresee a possibility to talk in these formats, because as also Antonella mentioned, we have to use partnership with EU NGOs. And I think this format does give us leverage to know more and to talk more to our governments with more information, with more expertise. Yeah.
Thank you, Hennadiy. I think we have 10 minutes left, and I think there is space for 1 or 2 last interventions, questions, comments, but please do target them to the individual speakers so that we are efficient in terms of time. We have one here in the front row. Last point, question, comment, anything? Could we also target it at Valery, since he didn't speak this round? There was no question for him, but I will not propose to your mind. That's up to you, indeed. Please.
Thank you very much, Pavel. My name is Vic van den Broek. I'm a PhD candidate at Maastricht University. You read my mind. My question is to Valery.
Very good.
We talked a lot about what we can do in the EU, what we can do in the member states, what we can do in exile. What can the EU, member states, and civil society do for Belarusians in Belarus? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Any last points? I don't see any, which is fine. Okay, you save it. Thank you. Please, microphone over there, please. And that will be also the last question to the front row here from this round.
Thank you.
So
I'm
please.
Gintaras Morkis, representing European Economic and Social Committee, so the committee which does quite a lot in support of bilateral partnership with our Eastern Partnership countries, so coordinating platforms and DAGs that are monitoring trade agreements. So, but in that case, for the end of that panel, so I'd like to put a question on solidarity and sanctions. So Valery was speaking about sanctions, more sanctions to Belarusian regime that could affect somehow regime and change of way of behavior, international and domestic. But so, speaking about the solidarity among the Eastern Partnership countries, so I wonder why and how it is possible that Eastern Partnership countries with certain level, different level, of course, of aspirations towards the integration to the EU, are not applying sanctions to aggressor, to Russia. So Ukraine is in a danger. Ukraine is in a terrible danger, which is in war with the great country Russia. So, and European Union and the member states are sanctioning Russia, suffering. People are taxpayers. Suffer because they have to pay more for the energy resources, for steel, for metals, and so on, to find a way, to find a place where to export from, to exchange, and that costs a lot for much more for the member states, but that is due to the sanctions that are applied for Russia, because European Union doesn't have any other weapon. So, my question is, what about why the Eastern Partnership countries don't apply sanctions to Russia?
Thank you.
And
I think it's clear.
What the Eastern Partnership countries' civil societies could do, their countries join the EU in this matter.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Very good questions. Two questions first, Valery, if you could start. There was the question about Belarus member states, what they can be doing. Of course, we spoke about multi-level support, you know, especially from some of the member states, but you definitely have space and proposals for more. So please feel free to articulate. And then we had a question about the sanctions. So maybe Dirk, you can also.
But we do apply sanctions, so I don't understand what the
Eastern
question is.
Partnership, why they don't themselves do.
Okay.
So maybe you can reflect on this. And Maria, maybe you can also add from what is the point of view of you and your government, you know, in terms of sanctioning, having sanctions against Russia, for example, and so on. So about this maybe political sensitivity on this. Valery, please.
Thank you, Pavel. So it is extremely difficult to work on the ground now. Not only for international actors, but for democratic forces, for civil society. I would clarify, though, that civil society is alive and well in Belarus. Yes, it is not registered. It works sort of outside the law, which is very repressive. But nevertheless, it exists. Also means that the power is there, the energy is there. People want to achieve the objective of free Belarus, and they do not stop. Even independent journalists work on the ground, but very discreetly, very invisibly, because anything that becomes noticed by the regime gets in ruins immediately. However, what we are doing from abroad is all directed by its outcomes, implied outcomes on the situation in Belarus. We are talking about information dissemination, not only news, ongoing agenda, but also where we're going, the alternative, sort of new Belarus vision, very important for us. We're working on national identity, and our neighbors are especially effective in this, in supporting our initiative to support Belarusian national identity in Lithuania, in Poland, and in other countries. But this also helps us to reach into Belarus with online education, with supporting Belarusian studies abroad and at home. We need to support political prisoners and their families. also something that is an area that is very vast. It is not just about solidarity, but it's also about supporting families who are in Belarus. It's also about providing conditions for families who are separated by the border because of the exile to have an opportunity to be together. And we're advocating now for special visas for family members who stayed in Belarus, but those who are in exile cannot go back to see them. Visa situation is always very complicated in Belarus. Now, after the consular decree, I would just remind that Lukashenko adopted a decree which prohibits now to replace documents abroad. So up to 2 million Belarusians are affected by this measure, which means that this situation becomes really grave and very practical for us. Human rights defenders also need all the support because they are engaged in these activities in a discreet manner, but supporting political prisoners also helps us raise the motivation, helps us make people engaged, that they are not abandoned by the international community. That's why all the activities that are being run now by civil society are extremely important, and they all deserve support.
Thank you so much, Valerie. Quite clear and strong voice. Dirk, if I can go back to you on the sanctions, because of course, Hennadiy mentioned about this policy alignment, you know, and common foreign security policy being one of those areas. How do you work with the EaP countries on these sensitive issues, for sure?
No, it is indeed very sensitive. I mean, you know, we have alignment of a number of like-minded countries that usually join our sanctions. Norway, partially Switzerland, and other countries, of course, Western Balkans, some of the countries, Albania is a good example, is always aligning with our sanctions policies. It is more difficult with the Eastern Partnership countries, and we do have some understanding for this as well. There are lots of links that are difficult to ignore, to break. Armenia is a good example because, of course, there's a lot of dependencies still on Russia. Let's be honest, in the economic sense and in other senses. So obviously, to expect from a country like this to fully join our sanctions is not easy. I think the country that comes closest to follow our line is Moldova at this moment in time, where a number of measures have been taken as well by the Moldovan authorities themselves. They have not aligned with our sanctions as such, but they have taken measures themselves to reduce Russian propaganda. They have cut off some of the propaganda channels from distribution in Moldova. And they have expelled also some diplomats, Russian diplomats who were clearly spies, and they are fully supportive of Ukraine in many other ways. Georgia, again, of course, we are getting as an example, and we just heard it again, that there's a risk of a second front allegedly being opened. I doubt that this is an immediate risk. The Russians are very busy in Ukraine and have hardly any means for anything else. But it is something we have to take into consideration, and nobody forces the countries to join. The same goes for Central Asia, by the way. The links are close, and we have to respect this. I don't even mention Belarus in this context, who is an ally of the aggression, unfortunately, Mr. Lukashenko. I'll stop here.
Dirk. Thank you, Dirk. And maybe just 1 minute for you also, Maria, if you want to comment on the sanction thing.
Thank you very much. I don't know if the question was addressed to me as well, but I'll answer as though it was also addressed to me as well. The EU brings to Armenia's attention all of the instances when Armenia's territory or the legal realm is used to bypass sanctions, and we address this issue. If you're asking about Armenia proactively taking steps, and in no way to contradict the earlier point I made about solidarity, I would need to make a painful statement then, that in terms of solidarity, we need to open this conversation. It's a two-way, multiple-way conversation, because Armenia does not expect other countries to revise their relationships with Azerbaijan or with Turkey, for example, and those are, for example, our security concerns. And as a lived reality of the people on the ground, for example, the Armenians of Nagorno-Karabakh that have been forcibly displaced completely from their homes within the matter of a few days, the tragedy is also very big. Yeah, so this understanding also needs to be in place, that we're not pushing, for example, Ukraine to revise relations with Azerbaijan or with Turkey.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Maria. This is, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, what we had time for today. I will just try to summarize in one sentence, and this is basically that Eastern Partnership is here to stay. You may quote Dirk Schuebel on this one. So the 3 to 4 year perspective, 2 to 3 year perspective, there is no replacement. We don't have alternative. For the time being, that is at least how we understood also from Dirk the position of the member states. So, but at the same time, I think Hennadiy started this very interesting discussion about what does it mean and what kind of Eastern Partnership we will have within this time period. So this is indeed a good reason to stay with us, to continue discussing and also reflecting within the next 2 days about how the Eastern Partnership should be looking like, and in order to deliver for you, the civil society representatives, but also for the government and parliamentarians and other officials involved in the process. So that is, in a nutshell, what we had. Thank you so much for this lively discussion. It was really fantastic. And now I would like to invite you for the lunch. Patricia, want to probably support my words, right? Is that correct?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Pavel, for this moderating this super interesting discussion, and the guests. It was really, I was at your lips. Just a little reminder, we lost some of those headphones. And they are very expensive. So if you took them to your room by accident, or you put them in your bag by accident, please make sure they come back, because we don't want to spend the money on having to replace these headphones. And now the lunch.
But before the lunch, a big wave of applause for our panelists. Thank you so much. And enjoy the now the lunch. Thank you so much.
And I think some of them will stay so you can have conversations during the lunch. Lunch where we were yesterday.